What we do here is go back.
Oi, oi, dickheads! How are we all? I hope we're well. I'm very well, thank you for asking. What you been up to? Anything fun? Anything funky? I don't know, I'm just saying words now. Just saying stupid words with my stupid face hole. Going to be joined by the No Justices of the MTGs, but it's not just Americano news tonight. We've got some American shizzle as well. So the Yankoids can stick around. I give you permission. Did a burp. Did a little burp. You're very welcome. Ooh, did a massive burp. Apologies. Apologies. Your smile is creepy. His smile is creepy. I may have poutine later. Do they have poutine in the UK? No, because we're not Canadian filth. Honestly. Some fucking people. Can't you just eat weird shit like a normal country? Anyway, No Justice is here. Shut up. Jesus. I'm so rude to my chat, Helena. Tell me to stop.
Keep doing it, they deserve it.
They are filth, to be fair, yeah. That is true. Yeah. How are you?
Oil. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I had a pretty good Novara tonight.
I caught
with that one.
I caught part of it, and you were absolutely excellent, darling. Absolutely.
Always am.
You were indeed, so. Yes. What was it you talked about during the bit that I didn't watch?
Well, we had the segments that I contributed on was a bit about Hezbollah being attacked by pages, which is a real story.
Right. Okay, that's interesting because it's 1993 again. Okay, cool.
It is true, absolutely. I mean, the hospitals and the people in the NHS hospitals still use pages as well, which is why nursing staff in Lebanon have been banned from buying new pages in case they've been rigged by the Israeli government by the IDF, to explode.
Yes.
We talked about the Liberal Democrat conference. We talked about the Jewish Chronicle being just posting like fucking totally fabricated stories, and about more on the Starmer donations gate.
Yes. No, I did see some of that. Yes. Hang on, they're it's quite faint. Hang on, I'll turn them up then, chat. There you go. Yes. So, we've got some British stuff. We've got some American stuff.
We do. We have some Yankoid political things to talk
We do,
about.
albeit being interviewed by a British guy.
Yeah, it's got Mehdi Hasan in it, so therefore it counts as being part British.
It does. It's mixed nationality, and we appreciate that. Yeah, honestly, he's Britain's greatest journalist, and he doesn't even fucking live here anymore. Honestly, God, I had the song right. Everything is average nowadays by the Kaiser Chiefs stuck in my head today. Right. a random shit song from like 15 years ago, and not only was it annoying because it's not a very good song, but also actually no, it's fine, but you know, whatever. But I thought to myself, that was 15 years ago. How delightfully optimistic that everything was just average.
I know, right?
Like, I'd give my right bollock for a fucking average now. Jesus. Like, even if it was just, mediocre, even a bit shit would be an improvement. Do you know what I mean?
Again, like, when at the point at which everywhere outside of London is poorer than Mississippi, that's not average, unfortunately.
Yeah, I used to look down on Mississippi. I used to think, Mississippi, at least we're not like that. And then you realise, oh shit, we are literally in the same boat as Mississippi. Oh fuck, well, this is not good.
True. As Richard points out in chat, do you predict a riot about it though? That's the question. Well, not French though, so.
Well, true. Although I do hope your audience don't turn into the angry mob. That is another Kaiser Chiefs song that no one will remember.
True.
Fair enough. Anyway, yes. So I suppose we should probably do the Britbonger stuff whilst those people are still awake.
True, very true. That sounds like a plan.
So I did find a Diane Abbott bit from ITV News where she's being interviewed from today, which I think is a different interview than the one you mentioned, but she says some spicy shit about Starmer. So
she's doing the media round.
Yes, yeah, and she isn't even selling a book. I don't think. I think it's just a head of conference, I guess.
No, it's just clear that as we've seen from the last 4 weeks of press coverage, it's clear that the press have decided to turn their gaze to Starmer now. Funny how they've not finally doing some holding of the feet to the fire now the election is over, but it's clear they have it in for him. So they said, well, we've got some people on the right to talk to. They all hate Keir Starmer, and now we've got somebody from the left who also hates Keir Starmer to talk about him. So it's like, what can we do to twist the knife into Starmer's back now that we've got him elected? I don't know, let's bring on somebody from the left who really hates his guts.
Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely fine with that.
Well, yes, absolutely. It just shows the fucking shit libs that were just like, oh, you have to play the press's game. Then that always fucking fails. Just like, oh, we won't do Leveson 2, and now we're in government and they just hate him anyway. And just gonna, because let's be real. Of all the stories they could find, some donor buying some stuff for him and then making a decision on one aspect of welfare payments when they didn't really dig the knife into the Tories on the same thing. These aren't huge news stories, but they're such bad optics. They're being repeated in the media over and over and over again. And you'd think that a compliant media would treat these as being with the brevity they deserve, rather than making them into national scandals that repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I'm just yeah, you cannot play the press's game. You have to fucking attack them rather than speak on their terms, because you just get driven into the dust.
Indeed so. So, shall we listen to a little bit of Diane Abbott shitting on Keir Starmer?
Absolutely.
I'm very much here for it.
Diane Abbott has told ITV News that her suspension from the Labour Party over controversial comments she made in a letter was part of a plan to push her out. Diane Abbott was...
Yeah, no shit.
Who could have known?
The great noticing again from the media here. Something that any reasonable person, reasonable observer of the situation could have told you, but that no journalist told you. Until now.
Yeah.
Britain's first black female MP and has been in the House of Commons for 37 years. She said people who didn't understand what she'd been saying didn't want to. In a wide-ranging interview, she spoke about the racism she suffered during her career, and she also had a word or two about Sir Keir Starmer. There were lighter moments as well, like the occasion during her relationship with Jeremy Corbyn when he agreed to take her out for the day. She spoke to our correspondent, Ron K. Phillips.
Lovely to see you again.
She's now the...
To take her out for that, but like a fucking dog. What?
No, they went on a date. He said that she was going to take her out on a date, so she got all dolled up. Do you know what the destination of said date was?
No, in Jeremy Corbyn, it was a meeting.
No, it was to Karl Marx's grave.
Could be worse.
In Highgate Cemetery.
Could be worse. Who was it that did that? Someone did that. Some famous poet. Didn't they fuck on his grave or something? Anyway.
I mean, I was going to say, I don't think graveyards are really the place for cute dates. Isn't that the scene where the kinky goths are supposed to fuck each other?
Well, exactly. It's hot as fuck. Look, it's secluded. It's quiet. Highgate Cemetery's in a built-up area as well. There are not many of those places around. And you know what? I think Carl would appreciate the degeneracy of it all.
True, absolutely. Breaking down the Western family unit one kinky fuck at a time.
Although, to be fair, he did have 8 kids, so... Although, to be fair, most of them died. So, you know, it's a story of 19th century just poverty, basically.
Yeah.
Longest serving female MP, but it nearly wasn't so. Diane Abbott claims in the run-up to the last election there was a cunning plan by her own party to prevent her from standing as a Labour MP.
The National Party, the people around Keir Starmer, were determined to get rid of me. Their deal was that they would restore the whip, but then that day, that afternoon, I would stand down. Well, I just thought that was humiliating.
So the thing that we all said was happening before the election, that the media denied was happening, and that the Labour Party denied was happening, was indeed actually happening.
Exactly. It's crazy, isn't it? And
What
the
a
thing,
shock.
of course, the thing that really was ridiculous about this was when the media started reporting on this. Keir Starmer kept saying, "Oh, well, this is just a thing for the Whip's office. I don't have any actual input on this one." Like, the Whip's answer to you. The buck stops with you very specifically. You're directly implicated in this. Now, actually, I actually don't believe that Keir Starmer necessarily was the one at the head of this. Of course, it was Starmer's Politburo, the team behind him, who I
exactly.
personally believe had their fingers on the lever on this one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me whether he personally did it. It's the team he's surrounded himself with, or that have surrounded themselves around him, I guess. The puppet masters, whatever. He's happy to be the face of that shit. This system has been put in place to trot hunt. We know all about that. That's been going on for fucking years. It's absolutely, the book stops with him. He's the Prime Minister.
Yep.
You don't get to turn around and fucking pretend like, oh, it's had nothing to do with me. No, it did. You're the Labour Party leader. You are now the Prime Minister. Fucking deal with it.
And I said no. And then it was a case of who blinked first. And they blinked first.
And
The
it's
row,
important
which
to say as well,
escalated to a
the reason why they blinked first specifically as well, which is interesting to me, is that the press actually reported on this because Diane Abbott was a key figure. Of course, like the
Yeah.
Pfizer Shaheen stuff had some reporting. But there was no reporting on all of the other people who had been treated unfairly. Remember, like people like Andy McDonald and Chaos Moore. These people
Yep.
just wasn't covered properly. Jeremy Corbyn, when he was suspended from the whip, the press just treated it like it was just the correct decision, even though we now know that the statement that he made about the sources inside and outside the party over-exaggerating the scale of anti-Semitism for political reasons was actually true, like from the Anushka Asthana article from the other day in The Guardian, essentially saying very specifically that the Labour right were colluding with journalists to try and bring him down about the scale of anti-Semitism within the party. And the press has treated it as row. But Diane Abbott seemed to be, for some reason, the line where this stopped and the press started saying that it was bad. And the public, the public who you'd usually expect to be rabidly anti the left, because Diane Abbott and Corbyn and people like this, they have very low approval ratings amongst the public more broadly. But actually, just being nasty, it's not good optics. It wasn't good optics, and people thought they were being needlessly nasty, and the public's poll on this said that they actually wanted both Abbott and Corbyn back into the party because they felt they were being treated unfairly, and so that's why they blinked.
Yes. And of course, they were
Rallying.
being treated unfairly. This wasn't an undue assessment by the public.
Her constituency played out for days. It began a year earlier over comments she made that Jewish and traveller people do not experience racism.
I just wondered if you regret writing that letter.
I think people understood what I was saying. I've been the MP for Hackney for 37 years. It has one of the largest Jewish communities in the country. I think it's number 7. And if I was an anti-Semite...
That doesn't quite work though, Diane, does it? I can't be an anti-Semite. Some of my best voters are Jews. Like, no. You don't get to, it doesn't work that way, okay? Now, I don't think she is an anti-Semite. But that just saying I've got Jewish constituents is fucking irrelevant to the point.
Yeah, I can't be a misogynist. My wife's a woman.
Exactly.
Semite, my Jewish constituents would have worked that out by now.
The Labour Party today denied there was ever a plot against her. They issued a statement.
Shocked I am. Shocked. The Labour Party would lie about this again. No.
It's almost like Keir Starmer is a morally corrupt serial liar, James.
Well, more of that dickhead later.
Saying Keir Starmer has great respect for Diane Abbott.
Note that specific wording. Keir Starmer has great respect for Diane Abbott. Let's see later whether that's reciprocal.
And on top of that, as well, is that, as I've said, like, they just are happy to brazenly lie. It was clearly reported that the buck stopped with Keir Starmer over the whether the whip was returned when their explicit line that they lied about. Like, they just lied. Like, there is no question on this. It is 100% truth. They explicitly and deliberately lied about the state of her whip with regards to saying, well, she has to deal with the comments that she's made that were perceived to be anti-Semitic in the letter she wrote to the Observer. But that process had already concluded 6 months before they went to the press saying that they haven't sorted out with the stuff with the whips yet and that it was out of Keir Starmer's control. Both of those things, total lies.
Yep.
Total lies.
It's simply wrong to say that there was any plan being pushed by the leadership to force her out. We continue to value Diane's significant contribution to public life.
Do you like him?
He's the leader of the party. You know, in the end, you're the leader of the party.
Fucking shade.
I mean, she's almost going to be tweeting out pixelated photos of him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the Diane Abbott style shade.
That is. I mean, it's almost Stalin erasing the guy next to him by the river. It's almost that. Okay? But it gets even better because liking is one thing or another. You don't have to like a colleague. You know, that's fine. I wonder if they ask a more pointed question next.
You can't really take a view on them.
Do you respect him?
Again, he's the leader of my party. You can't really take...
Amazing.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so clear that she just wants to say no.
Yeah, you'll notice the one word that didn't come out of her mouth at any point was yes. There, that was definitely not present, which is nice, you know. Beautiful. Yeah, she basically wants to go, no, he's a fucking prick. But you have to, you have to somewhat toe the line.
Take a view on the leader of your party.
No, you couldn't possibly take a view on the leader of your party, ever. Who's ever done that before? That's crazy, dog.
The smile there. Like the smile there. The smile. It's like Josh Sawyer saying a lot of people liked Fallout 3 and then like smirking after saying so, right? No, she knows she's saying exactly what she needs to so that everybody knows that she hates him without saying that she hates him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And why shouldn't she hate him? The guy's an absolute snake.
Yeah, a piece of shit.
Earlier this year, the MP was herself the victim of racist comments made by the Tory donor Frank Hester, who said looking at her made him want to hate all black women and that she should be shot.
Yeah, he did say that. Very racist. The Tory party still took money from him just before the election, so that was nice. And secondly, when that news story broke, if you remember, there was a lot of love for her in the House of Commons, people saying how terrible it was. Keir Starmer even went and gave her a handshake and said, is there anything I can do for you? And she said, you can restore the whip. And he basically went, nah, bro.
That's literally exactly what happened, yeah. Like, she said that she basically had no contact with Keir Starmer throughout the whole affair. Then he was asked about this deliberately, directly by an ITV News journalist sitting in some fucking movie theatre for some reason. I don't know why the hell they were doing that. It doesn't make any sense to me. It was just weird places to interview politicians. But anyway, like he was asked that she said that they'd had no contact. And his only response was, well, I have respect for Diana, but she's a trailblazer. And I'm like, fuck this cunt. Like, legitimately, like, just bin him. What a waste, cadet.
That's why I don't mind her metaphorically sticking the knife in here, because fuck him. He's a piece of shit. Yeah.
Absolute piece of shit.
To have somebody, a public figure, say that publicly was very upsetting and made me feel as if I was under threat.
The MP discusses her life in her recently written memoir.
Oh, she does have a
Abbott was
book.
born in Paddington in West London to parents Reginald and mother Julia. They arrived in the UK shortly after Windrush. In the 1970s, Diane Abbott went out with Jeremy Corbyn. The pair even lived together, but it wasn't all romance.
We were together. I even
No, it's
lived
mostly hardcore fucking. There was no love there, it was just animalistic lust.
with him for some time, but I started to whine and complain that we never went out anywhere. So Jeremy, who's a very kind person, he thought about it, and then one day he said, we're going out. And I thought, wow, and I got dressed, and we got in the car, and he drove, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to go to a nice wine bar. Actually, he took me to Highgate Cemetery and showed me the tomb of Karl Marx. That was his idea of an outing.
Diane Julie Abbott has been duly...
Making headlines in 1987, she became the first black woman MP to be elected to Parliament.
That was the year I was born. That seemed like that should be some ancient shit, right? Like, oh, the first black woman was elected in 1937. You know, one of those things. No, the first black woman was elected the year I was born. That's fucking terrifying.
It is interesting, like, just how exclusionary our society was, specifically to black people.
Oh, yeah,
in a way that it kind of wasn't. Obviously, they were still racist towards people from, like, the subcontinent, because people from the subcontinent spent more time here than black people did before the Windrush generation. And it's interesting just how exclusionary our society was to black people in a way that it wasn't to this in much greater extent than it was for people from India, for example. Like, the now Abaf Pataudi literally played on the England cricket team.
He did indeed.
In the pre-war era. So
Stop it. Get some help.
Anti-blackness is central to so much racism in this country.
True.
Historically as well.
Indeed. Thank you, Christonomy with the bits, and thank you, Over Historian, for gifting. For resubscribing. Much love. We're on I don't know why it's being called this, a golden train, which I'll be honest with you, sounds like something you would definitely find on Urban Dictionary. But that's what they're calling the hype train now, the golden train. Fuck knows why. If you want to go on the golden train and presumably piss on me. Bits and subs are a thing you can do if you wanted to. Okay. Also, you can give money to No Justice MTG on both YouTube and the Twitches.
You can do that. I would highly recommend that you do.
Indeed.
It's what keeps me employed here on Twitch.tv.
Nice.
The racist abuse began almost immediately.
Back in the day, if you wanted to
Is that
abuse an
Oliver
MP,
Letwin?
you had to write a letter, you had to put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and go out and post it. Now, you just have to press a key on a computer. It is a great job.
Actually, talking of that and the kind of era that we've been referenced there, if you ever get a chance, read Peter Tatchell's The Battle for Bermondsey, when he ran for the Bermondsey by-election, in which a former Lib Dem leader, whose name I've totally forgotten but came out as gay. Bug. Anyway, he ran a very homophobic campaign against him. And because Peter Tatchell had originally come to Britain to avoid the draft, because he's Australian by birth, to avoid the draft in Vietnam, they were sending like single bullets to him in the post. Like as a threat.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like really grim shit. Incredible bravery of the man. And then he went on, obviously, to do several attempts at citizen's arrest of Robert Mugabe. Because why not, I guess? The man likes to live on the edge, you know.
Simon Hughes.
Simon Hughes, there we go. Yes, Simon Hughes. Who ran a very homophobic campaign against him. Peter Tatchell, a very out gay man. At a time when that really wasn't the done thing. Section 28 was still very much in force. And it turns out that he was a gay man himself the entire time. Amazing.
Did I know that? Speaking of racist campaigns, did you ever see the video from 1997 of some Tory prospective parliamentary candidate running against Jack Straw and just going round to Muslim people's houses and saying, "Don't vote for Jack Straw, he's Jewish"?
Jesus fucking Christ! No, I didn't see this. Whoa!
Yeah, that's a true story.
That is majorly fucked up. Like, there are lots of good reasons not to vote for Jack Straw. Mainly the war crimes and that. But, the fact of his religious or ethnic heritage is not one of them. Jesus
also because like she wasn't Muslim. I believe she was like, I think she was like Hindu or something. I forget which person it was specifically. But like there was also like an kind of inherent level of Islamophobia there of just saying, well, they're Muslims, they must hate Jews, right?
Yeah.
In the same way that guy speaking to Jeremy Kyle, like was it literally last year, I believe it was, saying that you can't be pro-Islam without being anti-Jew. And I'm like, well, maybe if you just look at thousands of years of history when actually there was no problems between these two groups of people.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if you went and asked the Reconquistador about their attitudes towards Jewish people, whether they might say that being a Christian means you have to be anti-Jewish.
Exactly.
I mean, literally, the Pope forgave the Beatles before he forgave all Jewish people.
What? Jesus, Revelation City tonight.
Yeah. The Pope, the sin of deicide, the killing of Christ, was held over not just the Jewish people at the time, but all Jewish people subsequent to that, right? The Catholic Church, this is, and the Catholic Church eventually forgave them in like the fucking 80s or whenever the fuck it was. And they forgave John Lennon once famously said that the Beatles were bigger than Jesus. No, he didn't actually mean better, but regardless of that, there was like a big religious reaction to it. And the Catholic Church denounced them and all that. And they forgave the Beatles before they forgave the entirety of world Jewishness. Like, fucking mad shit. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad you forgave the Beatles. I am, because that was nonsense. But priorities, lads. Come on now.
It's almost like the historic source of most anti-Semitism historically has usually been white European Christians.
Almost exclusively, yes. Well, actually, no, that's not technically true. Almost exclusive, but yeah, the vast majority of it certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose Cubs? Well, I am on level 2, but I didn't say. So if we get to level 3, I will finger. Who's died recently that I can finger? I don't know.
Fat Man Scoop.
Did Fat Man Scoop die?
Did you not hear? Yeah, he died.
Oh no, I'm not going to finger him though. I respect him too much.
We do have the greatest of reverence to the greatest musician of our time.
I am very sad actually that I didn't even know that. I don't know. I will finger. I will finger Keir Starmer's integrity because it died a long time ago.
Yeah, true.
So if you want that, and that will definitely happen, I will definitely make that happen. Alberto Fujimura, yeah, absolutely, yes, I'll finger him as well. Fuck it, why not? I'll fly to Peru or Japan, wherever he's being buried. I don't fucking know. I will find out and I will do that as well. So if you want that, level 3 hype train, people. Bits, subs, on the golden train, pissing on me. Oh, fucking hell, what am I doing with my life? Jesus Christ. My dad asks me, because he's such a fucking knob, he doesn't understand what I do, basically, right? He doesn't. I've tried to explain what streaming is and stuff. I said, like, it's like a TV show, but you make it on your own in your room. He's like, that sounds shit. And I went, it kind of is, but people sort of like it, you know. And anyway, I've tried to explain, and the way he asks me how my career is going, he says, how's the internet? Is the literal sentence he asks me. And I don't even bother correcting him anymore. I just say, yeah, it's fine, yeah. Just leave it there. Look, it doesn't matter. You just trying to explain it to him. It's like trying to. When I try and explain it to him, he looks at me like I'm a cat that's started talking Chinese. You know. Anyway, we were talking about Diane Abbott, weren't we? Half an hour ago.
Now mother of the house, Diane Abbott will be approaching her 76th birthday at the next election. She has many critics, but
God,
even they
old.
agree she's a trailblazer who will continue to leave her
No.
mark.
They don't agree she's a trailblazer. They have to publicly say that. What they actually think is N-word hard R. That's what a lot of her enemies actually think. But they say, she's a trailblazer. She smashed the glass ceiling for Afro-Caribbean women in this nation, and that's a great thing. Fuck off, lads. We all know you were doing black and white minstrel shows at university. Fuck off. That is a stiff dick of poop. Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say the probably thing they care most about is the fact that they think she's a Trotskyist.
That is also a thing they definitely believe. Thank you, non-binary, for gifting a sub to Keir Starmer's dad. Which is a great name. Thank you for that. Thank you to the owner of that account for making it happen.
In politics. Roque Phillips, ITV News.
Political correspondent Harry Horton is in.
I don't give a fuck what Harry Horton has to say.
I found the clip. I found the clip of the woman in 1997. I've just popped it in your DMs.
Oh, let's go. Let's fucking go. Oh, I am positively moist in anticipation. Let's fucking rip it.
It was Geeta Sidhu Rob, by the way, was the name of the candidate.
It's such a shame because it's a lovely name. But it turns out, massive fucking racist.
Literally.
And
I was right. Yeah, she was Hindu.
Yeah. Driving through the town telling people Jack Straw's a Jew. Fucking hell. Okay. Well, I mean, brace yourselves, I guess, people.
We're just going to pull the gloves off. I'm going to get a car and walk around to drive through town telling everybody Jack Straw's a Jew. And I'm going to vote for someone who's Jewish. That's it. That's what happened.
I didn't expect them to cash the check that early in the clip. I thought there'd be a bit of build-up, but there was no foreplay. Just straight in.
Poop.
Fucking Christ almighty. That is wild.
And that's what we're going to do about it.
Whoa! What the fuck? Okay, that's even worse. Because that's not just a vote for, like, sort of implying, like, oh, they all know Jews are evil, so we'll just say, don't vote for the Jewish guy, right? But no, they're literally saying Jews are the enemies of Muslims. A Hindu is saying that as well, which is a very odd, like, combination of things. Fucking Christ. Honestly, I genuinely, I'm always brought back to the Stuart Lee joke about if political correctness has achieved one thing, it's forcing the Conservative Party to hide its latent racism behind more creative language.
Absolutely. Again, the people who was it the 70s? They gave out flyers with the genuine phrase, if you want an N-word for a neighbour, vote Liberal or Labour. If you're already burdened with one, vote Tory.
That's hard R. They were not being like street. They were not like predating gangster rap or anything. This was a decidedly racist comment they were making.
Yeah, and it didn't say N-word, like it had the thing spelled
out. No, it had.
So everybody's incredibly clear on exactly what these pamphlets said, yeah.
They went full gamer, is all I'll say, okay?
We're just going to pull the gloves off.
You did pull the gloves off. You really did. And go fuck yourself. Honestly, I hope you're doing very badly. Thank you for non-binary for gifting us up to Diane Abbott MP. Is that actually... Does Diane Abbott have a Twitch account? What? No, I don't think they do. It has one follower. So I presume that's not actually Diane Abbott MP. That is identity theft. Is what's happened there. Non-binary. I presume you set it up as well, specifically to do that bit.
Apparently Jack Straw isn't even Jewish. He was a Christian.
Well, that's the thing. If you believe the conspiracy, isn't everyone secretly Jewish? When you think about it, like the spark plugs are Jewish. Come on.
He's 1/8 of Jewish descent. His maternal grandfather's mother came from an Eastern European Jewish family. He himself was a Christian.
Well, there you go. There you fucking go. Well, they do that when they say, oh, well, we've had a Jewish prime minister before. Firstly, he wasn't called prime minister. And secondly, he was a Christian. His family heritage was Jewish. I mean, his name was Disraeli, for fuck's sake. Yeah, it's pretty Jewish. But he was Christian, actually, as it works out. Anyway. Yes. So, I forgot what we were going to fucking do now. Oh, yeah, James O'Brien. Unless you've got any more on...
Sorry, no.
Diane Abbott.
Mr. Sensible, let's use his real name, the King of the Sensibles.
King
as
of the
he calls
Sensibles,
himself.
yes. The Sensibles, the non-student based politics, okay? Back in the room, back in charge. And given how consistently he opposed and exposed Boris Johnson's misdeeds in number 10 Downing Street in terms of enriching himself at public expense, or indeed at private and, let's say, corrupt expense. You think he's got something to say here, don't you? He's going to absolutely clamp down on Keir Starmer, obviously. Right? Because he's a journalist. It'd be very bad if he didn't now, apply that same ruthless interrogation of power.
We talked on a couple of days last week about front pageophobia, about the fact that Starmer, as is probably best evinced at the moment with the winter fuel payment policy, is not going to govern by front page. He certainly is not frightened of the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail in many ways are sort of...
This is sort of a cope for he's getting bad headlines now. That's what this is a cover for.
Abnegating their role as a critic of government because they've got Boris Johnson on the payroll. I don't know if you remember the stories of Boris Johnson's wallpaper, the 7,000 pounds that had to be paid even just to cover it up. I don't know if you even knew that story. While he was Prime Minister, another £7,000 worth of taxpayers' cash was spent on painting over the infamous gold wallpaper that he got into trouble for buying in the first place. But he also saw the resignation of his own ethics advisors over his attempts to cover up and claim that he'd forgotten who paid for the debt. So, the scandal, on a scale of 1 to 10, the scandal of Boris Johnson's home decor would be an 8, and the scandal of Keir Starmer's wife's wardrobe would be a 1 or a 2. But
okay, James, you are a shithouse. You really are, mate. Like,
I mean, he did 5. Sorry, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, he's not entirely wrong. Clearly, in terms of scale, this is far less than the Tories have been up to for a long time. And that's why, as the opposition, they are going to be completely fucking pointless in terms of trying to take this on, because they haven't got a leg to stand on, obviously. But for James to pretend like if Boris Johnson had been doing this, he wouldn't be fucking screaming blue murder about it, is ridiculous. We all know he would. Because that's the game, 100%. Isn't it? He's the red team's version of, I don't know, who's a fucking Boris bootlicker, Koonsberg or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Exactly, 100%. And we have receipts that James O'Brien tweeted out criticisms of Wallpapergate on 5 separate occasions, including one more than a year later, just randomly out of the blue, saying, I can't stop thinking about that 800-a-roll wallpaper. Okay, maybe if your brain can get fixated on one single wallpaper story over a year after it's happened before, maybe your criticisms are factionally and politically based rather than based on the morality or the ethics of the case in question.
Indeed so.
Because you think he'll be talking about Keir Starmer's £50,000 shopping trip from his sugar daddy in September next year? I don't think he will be.
No, of course not. No. Thank you, Andreas, with $2. Hey, Kev, is this a full-time job now, streaming? Kind of, yes. And so if you wanted to help everybody, you can with super chats and becoming a member and indeed gifting memberships to the community, which you can do on my channel or on the channel of No Justice MTG.
On Twitch and on YouTube. Both of those places allow you to do gift arenas, which help boost the stream and the algorithm on YouTube.
True.
And spread the love around.
Indeed.
But it's still on the scale. And absolutely essential that nobody pretends otherwise. It's still on the scale. The Daily Mail, with which I have a peculiar obsession.
Would you say he's papering over Starmer's flaws? Get out, Lord Fritas! Get out now!
because of
Sticking
the damage
plaster
done to our
politics.
country by
True.
its editor-in-chief Paul Dacre and his attacks upon everything from the independence of our judiciary to academic freedom to parliamentary democracy, all of the great British values of our time, under repeated and sustained attack from the man that used to edit that newspaper. That's where my peculiar obsession comes from. They have him on the payroll. They have Johnson on the payroll, the man who rode roughshod over every constitutional norm in this country, tried to rewrite the rules of parliamentary ethics after one of his allies, Owen Paterson, was found to have smashed.
Remember, this is a bit about Keir Starmer being corrupt, and so far he's mostly just gone, Boris Johnson was corrupt, wasn't he?
Boris Johnson was bad. Oh, well done, James.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah, honestly, searing political analysis from James O'Brien.
Them to smithereens in pursuit of personal profit, and who, of course, ran away from Parliament rather than actually be held accountable for his own actions in lying repeatedly to them, denied his constituents in Uxbridge the right of demanding a recall. He legged it, he hid, he dug a big hole and buried himself in it before any of those democratic norms could be enacted, and Paul Dacre responded by rewarding him with an enormous column in the Daily Mail. A case of quid pro quo, if you like, because, of course, Boris Johnson was keen to install Paul Dacre as, I kid you not, the chair of Ofcom, the organisation that has oversight.
Yeah, and that obviously is disgusting. And we get it, James. Boris Johnson is corrupt, but Boris Johnson is not the fucking Prime Minister. How about you talk about the current Prime Minister and his current fucking corruption, maybe?
Yeah, like Boris Johnson is now a Daily Mail commentator. That is it. He is not a politician. He is not politically he's not politically relevant anymore. He's just a Daily Mail columnist. You can ignore him.
Yeah.
And it's reasonable to do so. And the thing is, he's saying, well, that they tried to appoint Paul Dacre as the head of Ofcom. Of course, ridiculous and corrupt and stupid and brazenly partisan. Okay, should we talk about all of the appointments to the supposedly non-partisan civil service? Should we talk about the number 10 bar? Should we talk about all of the consultancies who have been seconded to Labour Party offices? And then suddenly KPMG gets this £100 million contract to train members of the civil service as well. Should we talk about all of the lobbyists who are Labour Party MPs now? Like, there is plenty of reasons to think that the Conservative Party are bad. But if, well, the Tories were worse, is your defence of the Labour Party, then what you're essentially tacitly endorsing and admitting is actually the Labour Party are bad. But we're going to cover that up. We're going to, again, wallpaper over the cracks on this one. We're going to put the sticking plaster over the gaping wound of Labour corruption, which is, oh, well, the Tories are bad, aren't they?
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, but that's the thing. Implicit in that comment of the Tories are bad, aren't they, is essentially you're saying, yeah, they are just like the Tories. Which, like, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, obviously they are, but you're supposed to pretend like they're not. You're supposed to tell me they're not like the Tories. And you're just like, no, they are like the Tories. And that's fine because reasons.
All broadcasters in the country, up to and including me. So that was what Boris Johnson thought the media should look like, and what Paul Dacre thought the government should look like involved a man who lied as if it was going out of fashion, who filled his pockets, or at least his home, with gifts from all manner of tycoons.
Are you talking about Boris Johnson now, or Keir Starmer? Because I mean, it could be either. Honestly,
literally, that description fits both of them.
He seems to spend more time. He spends more time on freebies at the fucking football than he does doing Prime Minister work, I think.
Apparently, so
try to keep it secret.
The same guy who has received more freebies and gifts than every other leader for the Labour Party combined since 1997.
Amazing shit. Fucking amazing.
And also just lies about dumb.
I can't afford that. I can't afford to clothe myself and my wife. I can't afford tickets for the football. What the fuck have you been doing with 160 grand a year then? Where did that fucking disappear to?
He didn't even say, I can't afford to go to the football. You know what his genuine statement was about the free football, football hospitality? His genuine statement about the free football. I'll start that one again.
Football. You went a bit German. Love it.
The football. His genuine statement about the free football hospitality was I can't sit in the stands like a normal person because there's security risks. So are you saying that I can never go to an Arsenal game because I can't accept free hospitality? That seems like a bit much. I'm like, or Sir Keith, maybe you could actually buy those hospitality tickets yourself
Yeah.
using the money that you get paid by the state to do your job.
Indeed.
The combined household income of over £200,000 that you and your wife share, you can definitely afford your own football box.
Right.
And second of all,
Yep.
there is no security concern with you sitting in the stands at football matches. Of course, Jeremy Corbyn did multiple times at the same ground, Arsenal, when he was leader of the opposition. Oh, but he's Prime Minister now. Rishi Sunak was sitting in the crowd, not just for football, but for the cricket as well. So it's just bullshit. Like, this man is addicted to lying. Was his dad even a tool maker? Is his real name Armin Tamzarian? Who the fuck knows at this point?
True. It could all be true. Also, like, let's hypothetically say that all of the nonsense is true, right? Yeah, you can't afford it and all the rest of it. You don't have to go to the football, not forever, just as Prime Minister. Because you won't be Prime Minister for that much longer by the looks of it. So you'll probably be back in time for, the January transfer window, I reckon? Dickhead.
Secret, and then claimed that he'd forgotten where all the money came from every time he walked into the flat, where the fruits of his donor's largesse were literally painted all over the walls,
James.
plastered all over the.
If we're going to forget where the money came from, should we talk about the £730,000 of donations that Labour together forgot to declare and then got reprimanded by the Electoral Commission for doing so? Are you going to talk about that on your channel? Are you going to talk about that? Are we only going to talk about the Conservative Party when they do these things?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Here's the exact point from the Daily Mail of all fucking places. Not exactly bigging him up, but at least showing the truth of the matter. Here's Jeremy Corbyn as leader of the opposition, just in the stand, just regular old man in the stand, and brilliantly he attended that game with the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, as well.
Yeah, so it's just as many death threats as Corbyn does, yet they're happy to just sit in the stands like normal members of the public, Johnny come latelys.
Yeah, like, how detached from working people do you want to become, Kia? Oh no, I mean, I can't bother watching the football unless I can smell caviar. Like, anyone who's tackling a rocket salad before kickoff deserves the fucking trebuchet to begin with. Jesus.
True. My favourite Jeremy Corbyn-based football story, I don't know if you've ever heard this one, but he was at some function when he was leader of the opposition, and Piers Morgan was there, whilst Jeremy Corbyn was speaking with Hector Bellerin.
The Arsenal player.
Piers Morgan,
okay,
then Piers Morgan tries to interrupt to try and talk to Hector Bellerin himself. So Jeremy Corbyn just starts speaking with Hector Bellerin in Spanish so that Piers Morgan can't join in.
Fuck yes. Oh, that's such a flex. I love it.
Because of course Jeremy Corbyn's wife is Mexican, and he's been to Latin America a million times because he's got so many relationships with people from that area. But that's just so fucking funny.
That's amazing. Honestly, I love him even more now. It's beautiful. Fuck yes.
Stop it.
Thank you, Phenomenal Lass, for resubscribing. Much love to you.
The walls. So that would be an 8. But it doesn't stop, and this is the point. It doesn't stop the Daily Mail pretending that Keir Starmer is the new John Profumo. It doesn't stop them pretending that he has engaged in behaviour at least as scandalous as I've already said John Profumo. What else is up there with enormously scandalous political behaviour? And there it is. Why can't millionaire Starmers buy their own clothes?
Yeah, why can't they? Like, literally, at the same time you're taking away fucking heating from old people, we need to nationalise your fucking Louis Vuitton suits, you prick. Get fucked. Honestly, that's not acceptable, man. Honestly, terms of service preclude me from saying what I think should happen in that case, okay? I'm just saying, people might get a bit fucking heated. Because that's ridiculous. That's the biggest piss take I've ever fucking heard. Jesus. And again, it's not the biggest scandal in the world, because it doesn't involve, like, one of the biggest scandals, which he didn't even mention yet, was the one with writing off 200 billion quid in fucked up PPE. Just letting people off the hook with that. Letting rich bastards off the hook. There's a fucking sitting member of the House of Lords who's basically their entire wealth is built on fucking public money that they gave us fuck all for. It's disgraceful. So
Yeah,
by
exactly.
comparison, 50 grand on fucking a few dresses and a suit or whatever, I don't give a fuck that much by comparison. But the point is about the ethics of it. You said you were going to be not in service of party, but in service of the country. And unless you've changed your name to Country, Keir, you're not doing that, are you?
Well, to be fair to him, to be fair to Keir Starmer, is that to me he's been synonymous with the program Country File because he's a cunt that I revile.
Oh, I thought you were going to do a paedophile joke, if I'm entirely honest. I thought that's where that was going, and I was like, you're going to have to pull this one out of the fire, because this is going nowhere fast. But
I didn't even need to change the word. I just said the word with a gap in the middle, and it worked out nicely.
It worked out very nicely. You stuck the landing. Perfect.
Absolutely. And on top of this as well is that actually, buying some suits and stuff, that's whatever. Like, I think it's stupid, and we need to have a really serious conversation about conflicts of interest in this country.
Yes.
But it's very funny to me. The press are very happy to kick off over meaningless nonsense like suits and dresses that are being bought. Yet, where was the same coverage of the hospitality that Jonathan Reynolds got, courtesy of Google, just mysteriously before they dropped the idea of a tax on big tech? Isn't that a bit weird, don't you think? Or that weird donation that Rachel Reeves got from a climate skeptic just before their U-turn over the £28 billion. That's a bit weird that didn't have the same media attention.
Doesn't have to even necessarily be financial, because I'm always drawn back to the naked corruption of him taking a phone call from the president of Israel and then scuppering the SNP's motion in Parliament, which would have been to, call for a ceasefire. Like, that. I'm sorry, Keir, who are you taking fucking diktat from here? Because it's not the British people, is it? It's honestly, it's some grim shit. Once you look and sort of drill down beneath the surface, they're all fucking corrupt as shit. The vast majority of MPs are absolute scum.
Absolutely. I mean, even the Labour right links go like incredibly deep. Like Declassified put out a thing saying that they found documentation that said that Ruth Smith, who now sits in the House of Lords, was what was the phraseology I think they used? Like urgent protection CIA asset. Let me find it.
Oh wow, fucking hell. Although that doesn't surprise me specifically, but I didn't know about her. Yeah.
Just want to make sure I get the wording on this right, because obviously it's a
the
It's
Americans.
a pretty wild claim.
We know the Americans have got compromise on all sorts of fucking people.
Yeah, so the claim here made by Matt Kennard specifically here is that WikiLeaks had a revelation that Ruth Smith, now Ruth Anderson, was a strictly protected informant from the US Embassy in London.
Fucking hell. Wow. I'm glad to see that we've gotten our sovereignty back. That's nice.
Yeah, so that's the reporting by Matt Kennard there. So just repeating those words here.
Yes. But don't look. All I'm going to say is the fact that you've said that now, I will be checking my car for a bomb. Because that's the kind of shit that gets people Panama paper.
If they're not going to get Kennard or Corbyn for talking about it Declassified, I'm not think they're going to go after random Twitch streamers.
What are you on about? We're the cutting edge. What are you talking about? Of course they're going to come after us. Nobody's like Corbyn. No, with YouTubers, that's where it's at. And that's why you should give us money on YouTube and Twitch. To stop us from being killed? I don't know.
Thank you, Barry Brown. A dossier on the links of the Labour right could be called a cunt tree file.
True. Love it.
A lot more sober. Starmer's wife had £5,000 worth of clothes paid for by donor. And that's just true. That is the facts. The rules, as they stand, are to do with...
Oh, fuck right off. Because he rightly called out the Tory party for this. It doesn't matter whether you strictly were inside the rules or not inside the rules. It's the fact of... It's the morality of it. It's the fact that you're not in service of the country. You're after your own fucking benefit and no one else's. That's the point. The rules are shit and badly enforced. Well, that's why Boris Johnson got away with what he did for so fucking long, because they're toothless. Those rules, they're nothing. They're embarrassing. And that's, I mean, he's not even going to be investigated for this, by the way. Keir Starmer's not even going to be investigated for this.
Well, because he has declared it, right? Like they absolutely have not broken the rules, and they shouldn't be investigated because the rules specifically state that you need to declare these things, right? And they realised whilst going through receipts they hadn't declared it and offered up the information to the Parliamentary Standards Authority or whatever it was who deals with this. I think it's the PSA, and saying, look, we didn't declare this, but we've just found this. We want to declare it late. So it's a late declaration, really. So they haven't broken the rules at all. The real story here isn't whether or not they actually applied by the rules or not. The two main things are what hand shandies are they getting in response for all of this money that they're giving towards Keir Starmer and his wife? Where's the conflict of interest? And B, that the rules are fucking shit. That the rules are just, let's declare that we have a conflict of interest and then let's never scrutinise that at all. People are obsessed, like liberals especially, are obsessed with this idea of following the rules rather than what's the moral or ethical dilemma that's going on behind whether or not these rules are broken at all, really and truly.
Exactly. I'm very much with Sherlock Holmes on this one. When he said, I'm not interested in the application of the law, but only in the service of justice.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict of interest. So they didn't believe... Let's get the facts out there first before we have a look at what's going on in Idiot's Corner. The facts of the matter are that this has only come to the attention of the authorities because the Starmers thought they didn't have to declare it, and then they were given advice that they did, at which point they came forward. That, to me, is the first mistake. I think because of the environment in which they find themselves, and it's not front pageophobia, this. It's not front pageophobia. This is the importance of putting clear blue water between themselves and the corruption that has gone before.
But they have not done that. They're swimming in the same fetid waters as the previous government. There's no clear blue water at all between them.
Exactly. And again, I don't think this is the key story that even proves that.
Exactly.
The real story, of course, is everything with regards to the hospitality by Google, then removing the financial transaction or the tech bro tax, or them getting money from a climate skeptic before taking away the 28
The health
billion.
department thing. Ridiculous. Ridiculous that you would allow a person with a financial vested interest in the privatisation of the healthcare service and no official role in government free access to the health department. Why the fuck is that okay?
Yeah, exactly. And on top of this, the fact that in the run-up to the election, not only were there the £730,000 of donations that weren't declared, that Labour Together were reprimanded by, which was by like hedge fund managers and bankers and private equity fund administrators, right? Real, like the enemy. I call them the enemy because they are the enemy.
Yes.
Private finance people are literally the enemy because they are leeches off the system. They're not there for investment. They are there to be able to get their pound of flesh at the expense of people who do actual work, right? They are not.
They're parasites.
The Labour Party. Yeah, they're parasites. Absolutely. They're not people that the Labour Party is there to represent. And they donated money to Labour Together, which was not declared, and the Electoral Commission found them in breach of the rules. That is a real conflict of interest. Where's Streeting getting hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of donations with people from links to private healthcare firms that every doctor UK has absolutely laid bare for everybody to be able to see throughout the run-up to the election, never scrutinised clear conflict of interest. Whether or not these people are getting bought clothes, sure, I think it might be a conflict of interest, but this is peanuts in comparison to all of the other clear conflict of interest. Some have been declared, some of them haven't. But do these get scrutinised? No, because of course the Daily Mail, who's talking, as James rightly criticises here, are talking about these stories as if they haven't not criticised the Tories over the same things, are all chicken feed in comparison to the brazen corruption and the brazen conflicts of interest that are going on in the background of our entire political class. But that's not the game that the journalist class in this country wants to play,
exactly.
Because then they lose access.
Exactly. Well, it's sort of kayfabe in a way. It's sort of pretending that this is the main story, overacting this bit so that we don't focus on anything else that's corrupt. Because they want the privatisation of the healthcare system, so that corruption's fine. They're not going to expose that. Why would they give a fuck? You know, they're absolutely fine with so much of that other horrific bullshit corruption. So they'll focus on something trivial by comparison, and that's all you need to. And then it suckers people into a false sense of thinking that the Fourth Estate has it covered. that they are holding the politicians' feet to the fire, and they're not. They're really not.
Nope.
The corruption particularly typified by Boris Johnson. I could stay on until long.
Yeah, we know, James. You've talked half the way through this so far about fucking Boris Johnson, a man who hasn't been Prime Minister for 3 years now. I don't fucking care.
There's been 3 Prime Ministers since Boris Johnson.
There's been 2 fucking monarchs.
Yeah.
Long after Sheila's show has finished and not even come close to fully chronicling all of the corruptions, the mendacities and the disgraces of Boris Johnson's regime. But that doesn't matter. Neither does it matter that the Daily Mail puts Boris Johnson back in a position of prominence.
If it doesn't matter, why are you talking about it? If it doesn't matter, why are you throwing up this smokescreen of bullshit, James? You're a fucking embarrassment. This isn't journalism. This is just government propaganda. It's fucking tragic.
Literally rewards him for being the biggest liar in the history of our Prime Minister's office. None of that.
Biggest liar so far.
Exactly. I mean, again, this would be reasonable criticism, James. Like, I would be with you all the way if you'd literally spent 5 minutes talking about any of the lies that Keir Starmer has told, rather than doing the opposite and trying to claim that he is somehow a paragon of truth and not a morally corrupt serial liar, when clearly he is, right? Yeah. Your criticism would be entirely warranted if you'd paid any attention to how unscrupulous Keir Starmer has been as a political actor for the last 4 years.
It's going to be fun watching this prick turning himself into a pretzel, defending this government for the next however long it lasts before it collapses.
Well, plenty of content for us.
True, although I would much rather just talk about fucking football or cricket or some shit. Although not today, with Warwickshire being bowled out for 78, that dopey bastard. But that's not...
Who by?
Oh shit, who did we play? Essex, I think? Yeah,
oh,
Essex.
God. Oh.
Yeah. The 6th lowest score the county has ever produced in first-class cricket. Thanks.
Good. Meanwhile, Nottinghamshire, 393 for 6.
Yeah. To be fair, ours is a dead rubber anyway, because we're basically safe, so, like, who gives a fuck?
That's fair.
Yeah. Literally, we're playing some 19-year-old kid who's playing his second first-class game at, like, batting number 4. Like, who gives a fuck, you know?
Starmer has to be judged according to Starmer.
Anyway, yeah, I'd much rather talk about that and have, like, a functioning country. I'd really like that. Just talk about, you know, the advantages of the forward defensive stroke instead of, oh, why is the country shite? But, you know.
Outery to keep drawing the comparison. It's important to get it out there early, just to highlight the hypocrisy of people claiming that this is a particularly pungent scandal. But it is a big, for me at least, and we'll open up the phone line shortly, and you will be able to tell me why it isn't. This opens the door to a perception that they're all as bad as each other. And it's not a perception...
Well, James, far be it from me, but I think they are all a bunch of lying, mendacious, greedy, grasping cunts. Yeah. Yeah, they are.
We'll give him... We'll see if he can cook here. Let's hear him out.
Okay.
That is entirely unfair. So the footballification...
Okay, no, there you go. It isn't. It is. So is it not entirely unfair?
Let me skip back. Hang on.
It opens the door to a perception that they're all as bad as each other, and it's not a perception that is entirely unfair. So,
okay, fair enough.
The footballification element of this conversation is pretty clear.
Dickhead! You're the footballification of this. Well, you don't get to call out the footballification of it when you're wearing the scarf. No! You are that. You are the fucking red team's, I don't know, pitch side announcer? I don't fucking know what you are.
Literally, he's wearing the Tony the Tiger suit.
Yeah, you're the club mascot, mate. You're the one that's being punched by little children because they think you can't feel it inside. I've seen that before. It's fucking horrible. I don't know why anyone wants that job. Jesus Christ.
Oh, do we know who paid for Johnson's holiday in the?
Why are you talking about this man? He's not relevant to the British government. He's not relevant. If you want to do a fucking show about long dead corruption in government. Yeah, fine. Yeah. Tell me about Anthony Eden and the corruption there. Like, I don't care. He's not the fucking Prime Minister now.
But on that fancy desert island, do we know? Did we ever find out who actually paid for that? You see what you see what I mean? No attempt to lie, but there was a failure to over-disclose, I would call it, and that opens the door.
Over-disclose. So just basically, I'm being paid lots of money, supposedly out of the goodness of his heart, by a very rich man who is a politician. And that's apparently over-disclosing to, like, tell the public that.
Right, okay, I thought he was cooking. I thought he was going to be like, maybe they should have better standards and they should refuse these donations. No, he should have just not declared them. It was never going to get found out anyway, so just stop, don't over-declare and people can't criticise you. My God, he wants him to be more corrupt.
Over-declare. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, over-declare. Declare every fucking penny. Yes, I think you should declare every single penny. I don't think there should be such rules as things you don't have to disclose. If you're the Prime Minister and you spend large sums of money, that should be disclosed to the public. Look, if you go and buy a loaf of bread, I don't give a fuck about that, right? But like, if you're buying significant purchase, yeah, declare that. Declare where the money came from, what it was spent on, and what you're going to do with it. I don't think that's a problem, actually. Because if it's a dress, right? If it's your money and you buy a dress with it, no one gives a fuck. It's not a problem. No one gives a shit about that. If your rich friend has given you and your wife lots of money to buy clothing that you could have afforded yourself, one has to ask what they want in return for that investment. Because unless they're very, very, very generous, which, by the way, is not the way you get rich. So that's not generally how rich people tend to operate and behave. Unless he's very generous, he will want something in return for that. And I think it's only fair to tell the British public what that might be.
Exactly. There was a really great moment on Charlie Brooker's You've Been Watching. This was like over a decade ago. I remember watching this. I was watching this in university, so in 2011 or something when this was being broadcast, 2010. And on the panel was Jermaine Greer of all people, and they were discussing Dragon's Den, and her point was really valid that she made here. It was just like, well, look, you're going into Dragon's Den hoping, well, I can get this really good deal from one of these incredibly rich, like, venture capitalists sitting in front of me in, like, leather chairs surrounded by piles of fake money, like weirdo people at, like, a strip joint. And just like, well, no, these people have gotten rich on very specifically because they're really good at taking money away from people, not giving money to people.
Yeah.
Your chance of getting a good deal is zero. It's literally actually zero.
Yep.
And that is the same logic that we should be applying to this position.
Yeah. That's why people say, like, that when they try and make out like someone's an ethical millionaire, you don't become a millionaire ethically. You can become it legally, of course, but you can't do it ethically. Not a chance. Because you have to fuck over loads of people to gain that kind of money. Or be given it by some rich parent, which again is not really ethical. Especially if you're not paying any fucking tax on it.
There was a clip that went around TikTok as well. It was Charlie Kirk debating some college students. Like, Charlie Kirk owns a college student. And Charlie Kirk's legitimate point was, well, if I get rich, who else gets poor? And I'm like, well, you just fundamentally misunderstand money as a concept. Money is the token we use to represent the distribution of resources. If you get rich, then that means that everybody else has less of a share of the resources than you now do.
Yeah.
That money isn't a thing that you just take and then you magic up out of nowhere. The distribution changes. Your share of that distribution has been, even if it's only by a minute amount, that's shifted towards you. If you take an entire class of people, the rich as a class, all the wealth goes towards them. As a class, their share of the overall wealth of society, that has massively increased in comparison to everybody else. They have gotten poorer as a comparison.
I want to sit him down and take him through Capital. Just come on, read with me, Dan. I know he's got big words and it's scary, but we can make it through this together, Charles. Let's fucking go, mate. I mean, he wouldn't make it past the first 10 fucking pages, but, you know, I'd like to see him give it a good old college try, you know.
Perception among normal people like you and me, well, you at least, I don't know how normal I am, to think that they're all as bad as each other. Why would you do this? These are all questions that we're going to ask in a minute. 0345 6060.
we don't need to ask any questions, James. Occam's razor. Please use Occam razor for the first time in your life, right? Maybe there's a perception that they're all the same as the other. Maybe there's a perception that they're all the same as each other because they are all the same as each other.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just some like weird mistake and some oopsie that they've done. Like, you don't just oopsie yourself into political donations when you have had more political donations and freebies than every other Labour leader combined since 1997.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. That's not an oopsie. That's not a my bad. That isn't the appearance of a perception that they might be the same. He's just the same, mate.
Yeah.
Admit it.
It's exactly, this is the thing. He promised to go in there, be squeaky clean, above it all, in service of the nation. And not only has he been a bit corrupt, but corruption has been one of the core tenets running throughout his government so far. Every aspect of government has been infiltrated with that corruption in one way or another. Everything. They are, the king is dead, long live the king. Meet the new boss, same as the fucking old boss.
Yeah, the animals look from man to beast, from beast to man and back again, and no one could tell which was which.
True. That was from Animal Factory, wasn't it? Yeah.
973 will be the number that you need. So I think this is a bigger mistake than some of Keir Starmer's allies would allow. I don't think it is a...
Oh, wow. Such brave, bold, hot takes here, James. Thank you.
And again, he's just an idiot. He's just a moron. Oh, my God. Just like, it's a mistake that they wouldn't have wanted to... that other advisors wouldn't have expected to have done. He's been doing this ever since he became leader. This isn't new. This isn't anything different. Why have you... We spent... he's prime minister now. Oh, well, I guess I have to look at his financial affairs. His donations. Well, that looks bad. They might be the same as each other. Bitch, he's been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah, but people have only just started to notice, so he's only just had to start running cover for it. That's the propagandist handbook. If people don't notice, I don't mention it. Fine.
GDAN12, saying they're all the same when the Greens categorically take a different stance is just wrong, though. And when people in the MSM say they're all the same, most people paint all of the smaller parties with that brush too. People like James O'Brien should start saying Labour and the Tories are the same rather than they're all the same. Well, I think that is a really, really fair point there. Absolutely. Like, the uni party are the same.
You say that, but I wrote to Carla Denyer offering my services in hiding a body if she ever needed me to, or robbing a bank on her behalf. And at no point did she enter that in the into the ministerial book of interests at all. So that is a service I'm offering to her that the public don't even know about.
Yeah.
Corruption. Fact.
In the video game Minecraft, of course.
Yes.
Oh my God, Edward! I literally, if I'd have known this is what it's talking about, and I wasn't asleep at the time, I would have fucking roasted him today. Oh my fucking God! It's so
I do feel like I
obvious.
need to ring in one of these days because this is fucking trash.
And it's good content. It gets you the clicks on YouTube.
Fair point.
A behavioural error or an ethical error. It's not a question of standards. It's a question of judgment. So here's what I would have done. Here's what I would have done. I would have been not corrupt in the first... No, I would have been corrupt. I just would have not lied about it at first or something. Brilliant.
Actually, that's a good point, Solly. Have neither of us considered at all that it's just not an issue?
It's not an issue. It's not an issue.
It's not an issue.
I tell you what I'm really enjoying. All this quiet. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
I've been enjoying the grilling. We're getting back to some grilling. Like 2011 style. Let's go.
I'd have over-declared. I would have told the authorities that my wife was in receipt of largesse from a party donor, even if I...
What the fuck? That's what he considers to be over-declaring. When your partner is in receipt of largesse from a party donor. That's too much, apparently. That you shouldn't need to do that. That should be like... That's an extra. That's like, the public don't really need to know that, but I'm just going to over-declare it anyway. Fuck off, man. Just get fucked. This is such bullshit, because you know for a fact he'd be talking completely differently if it were a Tory. Well, it is a Tory. If it were a blue Tory.
Just declare your Amazon wish list just in case.
Yeah, fuck it.
It wasn't required to. To be honest with you, and I haven't consulted Mrs. O'Brien over this, and it's highly unlikely that I end up in politics, but I'm not sure I would have taken it in the first place. I mean, I am.
Oh, there you
sadly,
go. Thanks, James. Thank you. You're such a paragon of virtue. You really are. I love you.
I mean,
Big
of
fan.
course. I mean, you shouldn't be taking these hand shandies.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's
he's
the point.
finally gotten round to the answer.
Yeah, the answer is, as Prime Minister, you shouldn't be taking free money from people, because that's obviously a massive conflict of interest. Even if it were innocent, it's about it's not just justice being served, it's that justice is seen to be served. Okay? We can't know that it's innocent, because how can anyone know inside anyone's heart, or what dealings might go on in the smoke-filled room? Well, they don't smoke indoors anymore. In the rooms of Downing Street. We don't. So even if it were perfectly innocent, it would seem dodgy as fuck. So don't do it.
Yep.
And you can afford... Look, it's so annoying. You can afford to not to do this shit. Like, if he was being given bungs of millions into a Swiss bank account, that would at least make sense. Because that's a lot of money. That's, you know, double, treble, quadruples his fucking wealth. Fine. Not fine. Disgusting and bad, and you should be locked up for it. But it makes sense. $5,000. Look, you get paid 160 grand a year. We know you've got that blind trust that's worth $2 million in America. You're a rich man. She's not a particularly unwealthy person either. They're not like Rishi Sunak wealthy, obviously, but they can afford a dress and a suit. The fuck?
And they also don't need to have like Christian Dior ties and shit.
They don't.
Like, just because you're prime minister doesn't mean you need to have like massively expensive stuff. Like, he's survived in politics as a leader of the opposition, looking smart and decent without relying on gigantic donations of like £50,000 attire.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he fucking served at the bar at the High Court. Like, it's not like he was going in as a slob every day. No, he had very nice suits, I'm sure.
I found out just the other day. It was completely a mystery to me until this revelation occurred. He was once director of public prosecutions, apparently.
Was he?
Never mentions it.
Do we know what kind of house he grew up in? Because I'd be really interested to find that out.
Indeed.
Was it I don't know, a terraced house? What kind of decor was on the outside? He's a mystery. He's an enigma, the man.
This stage in my life, almost preternaturally scruffy. I don't know why. So I walk past mirrors sometimes and I think, who the hell dressed him? And then I remember it was me. I didn't used to be like this. I think, as I enter the midpoint of my 6th decade, I might start trying to pull my socks up, both metaphorically and literally.
The fuck are you
but I didn't
talking
used to
about?
Be very scruffy. And there is a relationship between how good you look and money. When I interviewed Tony Blair the other week.
Well, yes and no. Like, if you want to buy a crazy fancy suit, fine. But, like, the difference between a suit that costs, like, $2,000 and $10,000 probably isn't really that much. Not really. Once you've got a nice tailored suit, you're fine. You don't need... Like, why would I want the Prime Minister to be wearing a $50,000 suit?
And, like, a nice tailored suit, it's like £500, right? I'm no expert on this.
I think it's
having
a little bit
not
more
been a man
expensive.
for fucking a decade now.
Yeah, no,
like,
it's a bit more expensive than that. But like, for a properly nice tailored suit, you're looking at $1,000, really.
£1,000, okay, fair enough. Well, just that kind of ballpark, not factors of 10 less than how much he actually was bought one for.
Yeah, just silliness. There's no need for you to be buying suits that expensive. No, you can on your own money if you want to. Like, it's a bit weird and gross, but like, if you buy a $20,000 suit with your own cash, fine. Okay, just don't like be corrupt about it. At the very, very least.
A week, I could tell you that his suit would be well into 4 figures. I can spot that from a mile off as a consequence of my days in menswear. And actually, the odder your shape, the odder your body shape, the more wise it is to spend as much money as you can possibly.
I don't need the personal call out. You're out of order, James. Okay? I already had a shock this afternoon. I got out of the shower, scraggly hair, and I looked in the mirror and I looked like Carlos Puyol. a former Barcelona centre-half, and that's just not a place you want to be in life.
Didn't he score like the opening goal in like a World Cup final?
No, not in a World Cup final, no.
Was it a Euros final?
Possibly.
I forget now.
But either way,
a
fine centre-half, not a looker.
No, actually, I remember one time. This is a genuinely true fact, right? So I don't know, for people who've watched my stream for a while, you'll know that I once had a gambling addiction. But
I didn't know that actually. Okay.
This was literally in like 2009. This was 15 years ago. But at one, I remember literally saying, "Well, I don't want to put any bets on. I'm past gambling now." But I remember there being a final and Spain were in it, and I was just like, I think 60-1 on Carlos Puyol first to score. I reckon I could theoretically put a tenner on that because he's somebody who's generally in the area a lot and can sometimes head in a corner because he's quite tall. Yeah. And I was like, I had flirted with the idea before stopping myself because I was past that of putting a tenner on Carlos Puyol to score first at 60-1, and then of course that's the exact thing that happened in that final.
I once talked my dad out of I can't remember who it was, possibly Robin van Persie or whatever, scoring a hat trick in a game, and we were in the bookies, and I said, no, just keep your money. It's fucking waste of time. Don't do that. And he was like fucking 80-1 or whatever, and and he did. And honestly, he looked like... if looks could kill, this would have killed me, resurrected me, and killed me again. That's how bad it was. For anyone who doesn't know what Carlos Puyol looked like, that is him there. He was officially a munter. Fine footballer, monkfish. Anyway, yes. Let's try and get through some of this, shall we? Oh my God, wrong one.
And somebody was literally pointing out in chat saying, we love your content, but can you try and make sure that you don't interrupt every 5 seconds? And I was like, yeah, but that's kind of what we do. Yeah. It's kind of our thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know we have to transform the content, right? Otherwise we're just playing you someone else's video.
I mean, there's transformative, and then there is like EFAP versions of...
Oh yeah, no, we
stretching content out.
We make a 5-minute video last night. Yeah. Ridiculous.
On good tailoring, if that's how you want to look. So I can talk the talk, I just struggle to walk the walk. I'm not an expert on women's clothes, but I assume some of these things hold equally true, particularly on alterations tailors, actually. I think that's an expense
that's true, chat. The only suit they've ever seen me in is the crab suit. And that's, you know what? It fits my body perfectly. I am shaped like a crab.
If you are going to be judged by your appearance pretty heavily, and we know that partners of politicians, for good or for ill, female partners of male politicians are scrutinised extraordinarily.
This is a very interesting take. He's now going to do the faux feminism. Women get judged very, very badly in the media, and that's terrible. I feel really bad for that.
Therefore, political corruption is fine.
Therefore, actually, in order to combat that, what we need is for female politicians to be able to take more money from their corrupt donors than their male counterparts. Call it a kind of, it's like what's the opposite of a pink tax? And it's like an opposite of a pink tax corruption levy to allow them to get up to the standard of male corruption.
Yeah, literally, corruption is fine as long as you're a girl boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Just girl boss that shit. Okay, look, Brat Summer never has to end. Just saying.
Then a good alterations tailor will be worth their weight in metaphorical gold. But you have to tell people if you take something from anyone.
Yes.
I just don't understand how they've made...
They literally told them. They literally declared this. They declared it because they decided to declare it. The problem is the corruption, James.
Yeah, but also, like, James, you're saying you should declare that, but you said it was over-declaring. So which one is it? Should they have to declare that, or is it too much? Because surely it cannot be both of those things.
So Kirstian in chat, to this day, women are only bribed at 70 cents for every $1 men are bribed.
Exactly. The female donation corruption gap needs to be closed.
He's unironically doing the more female drone pilots.
Literally, he's trying to feminism corruption. Thanks, James. You're such an ally.
Yeah, 'cause it was literally last month where there's this whole Ferrari and this row over why aren't there any women in this private men's members club? Well, we're going to let some incredibly posh and incredibly wealthy women join our members club. How about we don't have this fucking like gentrified club of rich fuckers again giving each other metaphorical hand shandies and probably some non-metaphorical hand shandies.
It annoyed the fuck out of me when Clegg was leader of the Lib Dems. I think it must have been during the coalition. And one of the royal sprogs was being birthed forth, and it was a lady. Assigned at birth, and so they decided to change the laws of accession to the monarchy, right? So that it goes to the firstborn, and then the secondborn, thirdborn, regardless of gender. And which is obviously the way it was always firstborn male, and then secondborn male, and then if there were any ladies afterwards, yeah, go on then, give it to them, I suppose. And they were like, we want to get rid of this anachronistic throwback to a bygone age of, of male patriarchal power and blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, but why stop there? Why stop at that bit of the fucking ridiculous bullshit, this ancient throwback to a society long dead, with just the gender bit? Why keep the monarchy at all? It's all anachronistic. It's all unbelievably fucking... brutal part of history. It's embarrassing. It's barbaric. Why the fuck are we keeping any part of it? Why are we reforming just that one tiny bit of it that's a bit out of order?
Exactly. It's exactly the same as like when they rebranded International Working Women's Day to International Women's Day, because what it did was paper over some of the actual important like feminist battles of our time, which is the state of women, for example, on low-paid jobs, the amount of unpaid reproductive labor that women do, or what would be described as reproductive labor, like in Marxist terminology, of all of the homemaking and child rearing they do for free in the background, which in the era of neoliberalism they still have to do because of Christian societal norms, yet they're also told they have to go out and work at the same time, go and contribute to capitalism at the same time. That doesn't get a mention in our media. Like all of the posho, like liberal white feminists, they spend all their time talking about the member societies and the royal accession, yet they totally forget about the real, genuine struggles of working women in this country who have to do all of the shitty parts of capitalism as well as all of the shitty parts of child rearing at the same time.
Indeed.
This mistake, even the defence of saying we didn't think we had to, creates the possibility of it coming out later. I think, and I never know exactly.
So he literally is. Apologies for pause Andying every 5 seconds, but like he literally is saying, the corruption's fine. It's that the corruption might come out later. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, James. You're supposed to be holding this person's feet to the fire. And instead, you're lying on the fire so he can walk on you.
Angle I'm going to take on a programme is, until I start talking to you, I can think about something all weekend, but until I actually open my gob, I don't actually know exactly where my needle is going to end up pointing on the sort of Richter scale of concern or anger or upset or hilarity, depending on what the story is that we're discussing. And so quite often the more I talk about something, as I try and explain the twists and turns of it to you, the more my own opinion crystallises.
Sorry, Kev. Sorry, Big Madge in chat saying, need these James O'Brien bad takes to power the bicep curls I'm going to do. Good to see Big Madge. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, everyone go and follow Big Madge. Much love.
Absolutely do it. Go and follow. Was it Neo Big Madge Studios, like 6909 or something is the @ on YouTube. Just search Big Madge Studios, you'll find it.
Oh wow, you've got an even worse branding game than I have. Brilliant.
Although we're not going to join in any of the ludicrous attempts to pretend that this is even on the same planet as the scandals which Boris Johnson was busted for, I think this is a bigger misstep than people like David Lammy have acknowledged over the course of the weekend while being in.
David Lammy hasn't accepted it was a misstep at all.
He said it was fine.
Although not as bad as oh god, what's her face?
Angela Eagle.
Angela Eagle, yeah. Just completely dismissive. Just like, oh, you've had your little rant.
Honestly, honestly, I have far more respect for Angela Eagle just treating it like a non-story because she knows it's indefensible than David Lammy going, well, why do we nationalise the Prime Minister's suits?
Yeah.
Like, it's a far more reasonable thing to say, well, it's not my area of expertise, go and ask Keir rather than me.
Oh, yeah,
Much
but
more reasonable to say
hang
that
on,
and
no.
dismiss it.
No, but come on, you're there as the government spokesperson
True,
at that
true,
point.
yeah.
Like, you don't get to be like, well, I'm not the person here. So what? Why the fuck are you even talking to me then? If you're not a representative of the British government, why are you on this fucking programme?
Yeah, that's
Go
true.
away. I can interview any random prick who isn't from the government. You are from the government. Speak.
Interviewed, I think Yvette Cooper was doing the rounds this morning. I presume she was asked about it, but I didn't hear what she had to say. Female colleague.
Did she get interviewed by her husband? Any chance? Maybe?
It was on Sky, I think.
Oh, okay.
He said to me this morning.
Well, thankfully there's no corruption involved then at all. Awesome.
Yeah,
Love
because Angela Eagle was on Good Morning Britain.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's good. That's just one of her underlings in the Home Office. Totally different.
You don't know what it's like to be a woman, which I think we can all
also
agree
actually-
is true.
On top of that as well, it was no Ed Balls. They managed to get it even worse. It was Richard Madeley's back.
Oh, why? Why does he still fucking exist? God almighty.
In the wise words of Charlie Brooker, the pussy loves that Madeley.
True.
He said that genuine phrase on screen, Mike.
It's still my favourite Richard Madeley ever. He had Bill Clinton, right, who just stopped being president of the United States like 6 months earlier, right? So still like a big figure and all the rest of it. Certainly much bigger than they'd ever had on This Morning, ever. Which is like Z-list fucking nobodies mostly. And he spent, I think it was something like 7 minutes asking a question, rambling about a time he got falsely accused of being a rapist. And Bill Clinton was just sat there like, is he going to ask a question, or am I just listening to this man talk now? Like, it was so fucking bizarre. That's got to be out there somewhere. Definitely go and check that out because it is amazing.
There's also an incredible moment as well where Richard Madeley asks like the dumbest. He has the president of Guyana on Good Morning Britain.
Why?
The whole ass president of Guyana to go and make some like dumb statement about why reparations are bad. Yeah. And I'm like, it's like literally, and it's like this most stupid question you ever heard. Speaking to a whole ass president of another country. The level of disrespect these fuckers have to people who are literally part of the fucking Commonwealth. I guess not Commonwealth is Guyana because they're from France, right? But even so.
No, Guyana's former British. Unless it's French Guyana.
Oh yeah, that's true. They're specifically split because one was a British colony, one was a French
colony.
Literally,
the capital's called Georgetown. It's not very French.
No.
Maybe Pierreville or something.
Yeah. But incredible. Honestly, the man is like a genuine like the Alan Partridge of.
He is a bumperclart, definitely.
Yeah, it's true.
What it's like to be a woman and the scrutiny.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you're telling us what it's like to be a woman now, James. Brilliant. Thank you.
Which you are exposed. The way in which Cherie Blair, for example, was written about and talked about was hideous at times. I think one Daily Mail columnist called her the Wicked Witch, which you have to presume was an allusion, at least in part, to what he considered her physical appearance.
Yeah, and it's definitely true that women get treated differently. I remember the famous Legxit headline, which talked specifically about Theresa May, the then Prime Minister, and Nicola Sturgeon, the then First Minister of Scotland, both of whom are lady people, and both of whom were talked about because they had their legs out because they were wearing skirts. That was the front page of a national daily newspaper. Ridiculous bullshit. But James, she doesn't even appear with him very often. She comes out for a fucking photo opportunity once a month. Like, it's nothing. She's not like... Cherie Blair was front and centre, right? She was always on the fucking go. So she probably did need a few dresses and stuff. But, like...
They just... Like, ask James, ask yourself the question. Has Caroline Lucas ever needed a wealthy millionaire to help her dress herself? Has Ellie Chowns? Has Carla Denyer? Has Sean Berry? Has Layla Moran?
No, they slay on their own dime. I think that was a young person thing. No cap.
Like, again, like plenty of people, like there's Saoirse Eastwood. Has she ever done that? There are plenty of party leaders, and she's not even a party. She's not even a politician. She's just the wife of the prime minister.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To represent, I don't see it myself, but you know that these things are normal.
Although she will have to shake the hand of Laura Loomer when Trump becomes president and they meet at the G8. So,
and therefore, the idea that Mrs. Starmer very suddenly has to cut a swathe, has to cut a look far superior or far more likely to be scrutinised than anything she's had to do before. And the key area here would be repetition. So you've got, what, 4 frocks? 4 go-to frocks, maybe 1 or 2 go-to frocks that you know you look the business in. And if you've got to go somewhere where you need to look the business, you'll wear that.
You're such a bloke. You're such a fucking bloke. I used to think like this until I met ladies. Because I've got like 2 looks, and that's it. I've got a dozen t-shirts and shirts, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, women do take a lot more care over that shit, mate. They don't just have 2 frocks.
Also, what's the weird obsession with our journalist class of the word frock? No fucker in this country says frock more than our journalists. Usually preceded by man in A to describe trans women, right? But it all feels very boomer.
True. My favourite one, revellers. When have you ever heard the term reveller other than in a fucking newspaper article? Tipsy revellers were caught fighting on Brighton Pier. Like, it's ridiculous. No one talks like this. Stop it.
Frock, or you'll wear one of 3 or 4 if you're lucky. And of course, for everybody else, that's normal. But for somebody like that, you wear the same dress twice. It's actually a news story. So these aren't excuses. These are explanations of why perhaps they needed more clothes, more high-end clothes, than they would ordinarily have been able to buy for themselves in the very short-term window available. But
whoa! They're worth millions of pounds. They're worth millions of pounds. And I'm sure, even if he were strapped for cash, he's the Prime Minister, I'm sure a bank would give him a loan at probably quite favourable interest. Like, it'd be fine. Also, like, motherfucker, do you think they were dressing like tramps before? What the fuck do you think that... Like, these are professional people. They've been involved in legal work for fucking decades. They dressed quite smartly anyway. It's not like...
Wasn't she like a legal representative before working in like the NHS, right? I'm pretty sure she has to have like nice clothes to do that in a very professional environment.
Yeah. And I've never seen her not looking okay in the 4 times I've ever seen her. Because again, she doesn't come out much of that. You know, she's not he keeps his private life private. And actually, that's quite refreshing about him. I genuinely don't mind that. That's one of the very few things that makes him seem vaguely human. He wants to protect his family.
Exactly.
Cool, awesome, fine. Again, on your own fucking dime though, mate.
I'm not buying that either. I just think that if you are Keir Starmer, then your priorities outside of the political sphere, your PR priorities, are to persuade the British public that you are nothing like what has gone before.
That ship has sailed.
And again,
it's gone.
If you'd have noticed,
you can't get it back now. You know?
Exactly. If he spent 5 minutes before the election at all, scrutinising any of the other political donations that were made to members of the Labour front bench in any respect, then he would know that, again, as you're right, this ship had completely sailed ages ago. But because all he follows is what newspaper headlines has been thrown across the table at him by his producer, he hasn't got a fucking clue.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we did talk about that earlier as Friends Rust, yeah, the idea that he couldn't afford a ticket to the football. Like, fuck off, mate. Look, I honestly, and I don't mind us paying the Secret Service money for the protection. Buy a regular ticket and sit in the fucking stands. You'll have security all around you, you'll be fine.
Good enough for Corbyn, good enough for Sunak.
Yeah,
not
fucking Sunak did it, and he had, like, he had fucking approval ratings even worse than yours. And the worst he got was being sort of smirked at by Matt Letizia. And if looks could kill, it would have done, but thankfully they can't, so the Secret Service were fine, actually. They didn't need to intervene at all. No one attacked him.
And this
usually, when people attend the football, they don't have assassination on their mind. It's mainly football.
I'm afraid, is a bar knocked off the hurdle. If this was a dressage competition, that's 4 faults. He's knocked that one down. He didn't have to do it.
So you're going to let him get away with 3 more before you disqualify him? Fucking hell. Fuck me, James. Make it more obvious, mate. Make it more obvious.
But he has. So I don't do phone-ins really about how big a deal you think a story is, but I do flirt with the question occasionally and giving you the scale of this being a 1 to a 2. Here is something that shouldn't have happened but did, and we brought it to the attention of the authorities, is not anywhere near. Here is something that we desperately tried to hide from the authorities. We tried to cover up and we lied about until we were blown sky high by our own ethics advisor resigning in protest at our inability to tell the truth. So
So now he's back to talking about fucking Boris Johnson again. You spend most of this talking about Boris Johnson.
No, that's chalk and cheese. But I still think this is a problem. I still think this is the problem. So David Lammy said yesterday, the truth is that successive prime ministers, unless you're a billionaire like the last one, do rely on political donations so they can look their best, both in the hope of representing the country, if you're in the opposition, or indeed as prime minister. So I am going to ask whether you care. What? No, I'm not. Well, yes, I am. I have now. 0345 6060973. But what do you... How big a misstep is this? How let down do you feel by Keir Starmer on the question of putting clear blue water between himself and the obvious corruption that went before?
I don't feel let down, because I never had any aspirations of him doing anything else. I never for a second thought he was going to be particularly different. I didn't think he'd do it as straight away. I thought he'd try and keep his powder dry for a little bit, but give it till Christmas break, and then corruption a loser. But no, straight away.
And again, his statement there and before what came before is a reference to Boris Johnson, and not indeed what it should be, a reference to Keir Starmer's conduct and the Labour Party's conduct for the entirety of the previous election cycle.
Yeah. Does Keir Starmer have an ethics advisor? He does. He has 2 of them. One of them is an angel sat on one shoulder, and the other one is a devil on his other shoulder, and he always listens to the devil. So
is that actually fair? I think most of his ethics advisors are Morgan McSweeney and Pat McFadden, just going, be more unethical, do it.
So it's just 2 devils. Oh, okay, cool.
Just 2 devils.
Hit the numbers now, you will get through. And if you know more about clothes than I do, which
it's not really about the clothes, James. It's not a sartorial question. We don't need advice about fucking tailoring. No, that's not the point. Like, the Profumo affair wasn't like, was he very good at cunnilingus or what? Like, no, it's the fact that he was fucking around. Look, you've completely misunderstood what the scandal is here. Look, he's like Boris Johnson. I wouldn't have been that bothered about Boris Johnson's wallpaper if it weren't so garish. Like, no, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's the principle of it. It doesn't matter if it's, fucking a £2 a roll fucking knockoff job or a grand a roll, fancy shite. It's the fact that you're taking private money for whatever nefarious purposes to infiltrate the fucking government.
Highly likely. If you know more about clothes than I do, how do we actually feel about the idea that our Prime Minister doesn't earn enough?
He does. What are you talking about, James? He does. He demonstrably fucking does. He gets paid £160,000 a year. Now, don't get me wrong, compared to some other world leaders, that's actually not a lot of money. And I don't really care if it goes up a bit or whatever, but the idea that if you can't live on 160 grand a year, when the average wage is, 30-something grand a year, like, you're a joke.
And the thing as well is that these were the same people who very correctly, when Boris Johnson called that amount of money chicken feed, correctly said, that's a ridiculous statement. This is out of touch. Literally anybody could live off £160,000 a year.
Yeah.
And now they're playing fucking defence for Keir Starmer and going, well, he actually doesn't earn that much money, really. He can't afford it himself. Diddums. He's a small bean.
He is. When will the boot of the taxpayer get off this man's neck? Really?
Do you know how I got into... Good Lord, I completely missed the biggest opportunity ever for one of my most hackneyed and overused anecdotes. My entire journalistic career hinges upon a Prime Minister buying a suit. Did you know that? I would not be here today were it not for a Prime Minister buying a suit in the early 1990s, mid-1990s. That's absolutely extraordinary. And I'm 99% certain he paid for it himself. So... what do we think about the broader question of donors buying clothes, glasses, outfits for Prime Ministers? I'm pretty confident it's a no-no. And I don't quite understand why Keir Starmer's done it. So that can be a question as well.
Because he is corrupt.
Occam's razor, mate.
Like,
it's not difficult.
Yeah, like, what do you mean? Well, why did he thrust that knife into the guy's chest? I mean, it couldn't be because he wanted to murder him. It must have been an accident of some kind. Fucking hell.
I can't get excited about it, says Brian. I don't need you to get excited, Brian. I need you to get engaged. Should they be taking money? Ever. Or clothes, rather, from anybody else, from donors? And
no.
Why do you think they've done this? 0345 6060 973. Knowing what we know about Keir Starmer, don't know much about his wife. Why have they done something that leaves them so obviously open to criticism?
Because they're shit at their jobs and they're corrupt. I mean...
The man is legitimately like vegetable IQ.
Well, I don't think he is. I think he's playing that for the effect. He's pretending that the Prime Minister can't afford to buy a suit. He's pretending that... this is, it's not really that big a deal,
Please check the comments. Please check with the comments. I need to see if he's getting fucking roasted in the comments.
When Starmer says we are going to have to live through tough times, he means the old, the poor, the disabled and the vulnerable. It doesn't apply to us politicians, and the wealthy will carry on living the life of Riley. I am no longer trusting any politicians. James's slow realisation that the entire political class needs reforming. Fuck off. Any normal person would think that the optics of taking lavish gifts while at the same time implementing new taxes or taking away allowances for others. James has more problem with the Daily Mail calling out the hypocrisy rather than the hypocrisy itself. Fair point. To women who have to think twice about paying £50 for a frock. Again, stop using the word frock. It's not normal.
Well, her name is Elaine. She almost certainly is a boomer, so...
Okay, fair enough, frock. It's pretty insulting when a man who earns a six-figure salary plus expenses allows another man to pick up the tab for his wife's clothes. My late husband, she's boomer, who never earned that kind of money, would have been outraged at even the suggestion. No, James, the scale isn't how much you receive at all. Starmer's accepted over £70,000 worth of free gifts. He's getting absolutely torched. Starmer is a millionaire. Why should he need money for his wife's clothes? Is he that tight? He's just a mean bastard. O'Brien, his answer to Labour's disgraceful behaviour is to troll back at the Tories. Yeah. Corruption is corruption, there are no scales. James, on a TV programme recently, a person was £2.60 over and could not get OAP's pension credits. Thousands are in this position. So he's getting absolutely torched,
Yeah, rightly so.
Someone's got literally a breakdown of the fucking numbers.
Oh my god! No, but even better is they've done the perfect meme.
So 2,000 quid on eyeglasses, 16 grand work clothing, 4 grand Taylor Swift tickets with hospitality, because he couldn't go in the crowd. You understand? Otherwise, he'd never be able to go to a Taylor Swift concert ever again.
True.
25 grand private jet travel to Doha and Dubai. 18 grand various football tickets with hospitality. Cost of seeing James O'Brien squirm at his hero's corruption. Priceless.
Oh my god, I need to go and find that comment and screenshot it to put on Twitter.
It is beautiful, isn't it?
Actually, if you screenshot it, put it on Twitter, I'll retweet it.
Okay, I'll fucking do that.
Yeah, get you some clicks.
There you go. Okie doke. Yes. Any more for any more, or do we move on to Yankoid news?
Oh, there was the one clip. There was a short clip that I put in your DMs as well.
Did you indeed? Let us have a look at what that.
It was the Zara Sultana.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, the junior doctors bit.
Albie
because he's got Albie Amankona on, and I fucking hate that prick.
Yeah.
And so watching him getting absolutely like dumpstered on by Zara Sultana isn't only going to be funny; it's also going to be the kind of content people will click on.
Fair enough.
Albie has also healthcare. Junior doctors have accepted.
What the fuck is wrong with his voice? This has been pitch shifted, hasn't it?
Okay. Oh, you want to go back to the start, just like get the clean cut on that one.
The pay deal.
No, okay, we can do, right, but just listen to it again for a second.
Albie has also healthcare. Junior doctors have accepted the pay deal.
Oh no, he's just elongating his vowel. Sorry, I thought he'd been pitch shifted. He's going and fucking hell. Sorry, go on. Okay, right. So we're recording in 3, 2, 1.
Albie has also healthcare. Junior doctors have accepted the pay deal.
They have accepted the pay deal, but it might mean more strikes still. This is a story in the Daily Mail, I believe. So junior doctors have accepted a pay hike of about 22.3% over a course of 3 years. It will take the base salary of a junior doctor, who I think are being changed to resident doctors now is the name for them, from about £32,000 to £36,000. I do think they probably do need a pay rise, but at a time where the Labour government is taking winter fuel payments away from pensioners, I think there will be some people who would argue, do they need to be increasing the wages of people that are unionised workers at the same time as they're taking money away from pensioners? I think a lot of viewers would be quite angry about.
That's ridiculous. Like, doing the train drivers versus pensioners is one thing. Still dumb, but at least like they're sort of in private industry or whatever. Doing it for doctors who are literally keeping the pensioners alive, are you fucking mad? Like, you're not gonna. That's not. Firstly, it's absurd and disgusting for you to try. But secondly, that's not a wedge issue that you're really gonna win with. No one hates doctors, you prick.
I mean, people keep going into my comment section on a video I did about Labour getting rid of the winter fuel payment, going, oh, they managed to get a pay deal for the doctors. And I'm just like, oh, so you think that the people who cure you shouldn't get paid adequately after having 35% wage reduction in real terms since 2010? Like, they actually wanted wage restoration. It's not a pay rise. This is not even pay restoration. This is below pay restoration they're being offered here. And on the second half of this too, which is really ridiculous, is that actually, first of all, we need to make sure that we pay doctors enough so they don't leave. But in reality, this is saving money. Reaching this pay deal saves the government money. I know this sounds really counterintuitive to people, but first of all, we need to ensure that we have a working age population that are healthy and be able to work. So lack of doctors has impacted that because they're leaving to Australia because they're not getting paid enough. Having to continue to use agency workers to cover the shortfall during strike days, dealing with the economic consequences of lost NHS time because of the industrial action is costing the government money. It is cheaper. It would have been cheaper to have settled the strikes 18 months ago, both in the rail sector and in the NHS. The Conservative government wasted more money on fighting the industrial dispute than it would have cost to just settle and give the people the pay restoration that they clearly deserve as the public sector workers who keep our country running for a base level, literally keeping people alive. So people trying to say that oh, well, you can't take money, give money to these people whilst taking money away from the pensioners. I'm like, no, this is completely separate. They're taking money away from pensioners because they have a hobby horse over this thing, going back to 2014. But it makes fiscal sense overall when you look at the macroeconomic output to solve the industrial action, to save the NHS, and actually make our country fit to work again.
Yeah.
So it's just nonsense. It's economic, total nonsense to try and say that it's costing all this money that's being taken away from pensioners. That is a ridiculous line.
Yeah, exactly. The government have spent more money fighting the unions because A, they want a kind of culture war wedge issue, and secondly, it's just sort of the Tory done thing. They literally would rather spend that money, burning that money, our money, on prolonging strikes because fuck unions than to actually get around the table and govern correctly in the interest of the people of this country.
Yeah, the Conservative war with the unions in the public sector, first of all, because they don't want to have to spend more money, even though it's made them spend more money, which means they're inevitably putting up taxes, which they hate doing. But second of all, is the having better paid people in the public sector will then also incentivize people, if industrial disputes get won in the public sector, to then want to unionize in the private sector as well, so they get similar pay deals. And of course, who funds the Conservative Party? Oh yes, it's private employers. What do private employers not want? A unionized workforce. So it's a collaboration between the private employers and the government in ensuring that the whole basis of trade unionism gets completely undermined by the state. So not just so they save money from the public purse, so that their private employers who give them donations can justify shitty wages in the private sector too.
You say that the Tories hate putting up taxes. Recent history suggests otherwise. They've put up taxes on ordinary people quite a lot.
That's true. But then they just randomly cut national insurance for no reason, but hey-ho.
Yeah.
So a 22% pay rise over 2 years and some backdated rises as well. What do you think, Zara?
Well, the context is that junior doctors have seen their pay cut in real terms by 26%. So this isn't actually the full demand of pay restoration that the BMA were calling for. But if we want to recruit, if we want to retain doctors and other medical staff in our NHS, we need to pay them the wages that they deserve. And when we look at industrial action, doctors, nurses, teachers, no one goes on strike because it's the easy thing to do. Is often when there is no other choice. And we know that our NHS is in a crisis. Everyone knows that who's tried to get a GP appointment, a dental appointment, anyone who's tried to have any kind of elective surgery. So this is what we need to do to invest in our NHS. And in terms of further action, hopefully we don't see that. The independent pay review bodies are independent. They recommend pay rises, and of course the conversation is always between trade unions and the government.
But it's whether if you start giving away these massive wedges, you end up just getting more strikes.
Well, that's not how it works.
Is it not?
It's
because people think,
I mean, whoa, the whole reason that we had strikes in the first place was because they hadn't been paid enough by a Conservative government. The strike started under the Conservative government when they weren't giving these people good pay deals. That's why they went on strike as a very last resort. But all the evidence points to what you're saying here, Jeremy, as literally being the opposite of true.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
lack of pay that
Yeah, I mean, not only the history of these strikes, like you say, but also, do you think, Jeremy, your logic, quote unquote, here, would mean that doctors would want to not go into work and be doctors? Is that actually how you think doctors operate? They'd prefer to be outside with their patients not being seen than by treating people. Do you think doctors go into medicine to not do medicine? Or maybe you're full of shit?
Like, there's a reason why that in decades, over half a century worth of the Royal College of Nursing, they'd never gone on strike ever. In their entire history, the RCN had never balloted for strike action. And then suddenly, after 14 years of wage stagnation for public sector workers and the pandemic grossly exploding the level to which that our healthcare workers were put under the cosh by government failure of investment in the healthcare sector, they finally pulled the trigger and called for industrial action in a way they'd never done before. Do you think that that is somehow connected to the government's actions? Or do you think that they were just striking for no reason and could have loads of strikes forever just because Labour in government now? Bullshit. Nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay, the doctors have played a blinder here. I'm going to do the same.
Well, that's not how trade unions work. They look at the paying conditions of their work, of their members, and then they go into consultative ballots. They negotiate with employers. And actually, when we look across the board, when we look at what's happened under the Tories, workers in the public sector have not had pay rises. They've had real terms pay cuts. And if we are to invest in our public services...
No, well, I mean, yes, because of inflation, but if wages were to rise with inflation, it wouldn't be a pay cut. It's because they've deliberately kept them to no increases whatsoever, or very, very small increases at times.
Below inflation.
Below inflation, which is a pay cut, Jeremy. So you can't just say, oh, it's because of inflation, because inflation never really stops. Like inflation happens, it's sort of a capitalism thing, really, you know.
often the conversation around inflation, it doesn't look at the corporate profits that are happening within the economy that have driven a lot of inflation. In fact, often a lot of the rhetoric is blaming workers who are struggling. We are a nation of food banks more than anything.
Yeah, just think about that. Not Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Vine's argument there. If you start paying people, other people will want to be paid as well. And then when does it end? We'll have to pay all people a living wage for working for a living.
That's
Brilliant.
the thing as well, is
thanks,
that...
Jez. Yeah.
I mean, again, there is a reason why we've had wage stagnation over the past 14 years. And of course, this is not just something that's happened out of nowhere. This isn't just the way in which the market has turned out because God has willed it. No, the reason why we've had wage stagnation for this period is because of deliberate government policy of supply-side labour market reform. Not only was it slashing the welfare sector, not only was it engaging in contractionary fiscal policy, especially in terms of things that would push up workers' wages, and having a monetary policy committee that have really supported not having wage increases, especially in a post-COVID world where they were keeping interest rates too high for too long under the guise or workers' wages were going up too much. And of course, they spent the entire 14 years trying to push through extra draconian anti-union legislation. They did it in 2016, and then they did the minimum service levels bill in 2022. And this has always been the link that has broken down rising wages in this country, is the fact that we have some of the most restrictive trade union laws in the country. Maybe, Jeremy, we wouldn't have had 14 years of wage stagnation if people had actually gone on strike more often than they did, or threatened to go on strike. The fact that the threat of industrial action wasn't there in the private sector is why we haven't had those wages being rising in real terms for the period in which the Conservative Party were in government. Sorry to harp on, but it's really important for people who watch this in future to understand that how we set our wages, how our economy functions, is not just it doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is always a result of government policy. The way we set up our markets is a function of state policy. People try and treat capitalism and neoliberalism like it's just a fact of nature when it isn't. It's a statecraft. And the statecraft of the Conservatives is why this hasn't worked for working people. For regardless of where you sit on the income scale, your wages haven't been good unless you're a banker or if you're in the financial sector. For that period, it's been assets that have gained you wealth because of Conservative policy. And that's where people's wages have really not been keeping up with the cost of living during that period of time.
And the really disgusting element of that is, as you say, the bankers have been doing very, very well. And if there's one thing we found out during COVID, something that I was already suspected very strongly, is that if bankers don't go to work, the country's fine. If shelf stackers don't go to work, the country comes to a grinding halt. But who gets paid like they're an essential worker and who gets shit on?
Exactly. It's really interesting how when we're discussing the pay increases for members of our healthcare sector and everyone wanting to get a fight with the unions in the Conservative Party, so they're not essential workers now, are they? We were clapping our hands and banging our pots and pans during the pandemic for these people. Unfortunately, though, they can't pay their bills with claps.
True. It's almost like it was all a ridiculous joke of a thing and that Boris Johnson played the country for fools.
Yep.
A little bit, maybe.
Quite so.
Not to sound too much like James O'Brien, you know. But, are we done? Is that... Yeah, yeah, okay.
I thought it was a good little clip, that.
Yeah, no, that'll do numbers. Maybe.
And this is the first comment. People are struggling to make ends meet. Yeah, doctors are included in that. Junior doctors... junior doctors fucking base pay.
You can't move for junior doctors driving Porsches and Ferraris. What are you talking about? They're living the high life.
Their entry-level salary was £32,000. Granted, that's more than I've ever made in my career. I've never made more than like £23,000 in 1 year, once you count like the good years for me getting paid bonus, right? Like my base salary was like under £20,000 a year for most of my time when I was working in a call centre. It was only getting bonus that pushed me to 22, 23k in like the really good years when I was doing really well. And even I would admit that, £32,000, that's still below the median salary, which is what they were earning before the industrial action. As the most important profession in our fucking country, keeping people alive.
Don't mention people having to survive on 32 grand a year, because honestly, Keir Starmer will start to hyperventilate. The idea of living on those kind of poverty wages. Literally,
Yeah, exactly.
you'd be walking around in a gunny sack if you had to live on 32 grand a year. Jesus.
And doctors have to pay for their own suits and dresses.
No, I'm sure that they get, private donors giving them money as well. Because it's not nefarious. Why would they do that? So presumably they do give out money to all of the doctors as well, who can't do political things for them. I'm sure. And scene. Yes. Let's get on to a cheeky bit of Mehdi Hasan.
Yankoid politicarinos.
Yank-
Ooh, on the Zateo website. How fancy.
Indeed. Yes, I skipped through. There's the first bit they talk about like Israel and stuff. Yeah, no real issues. They do the usual shit about like, the Democrats are really bad actually, and are they any better than the Republicans? Which is their entire bit, of course, right? And then they get onto a bit of Russia stuff.
Well, on foreign policy, they're basically the same, but there is more policy than foreign policy.
Well, yes. They talk about Russia and Jill Stein's sketchy past with Vlad.
Daddy Vladdy.
Jill, let me talk about some record stuff, because let's put Donald Trump to one side for a moment. Let's talk about your record.
That is quiet.
How fucking quiet is that?
That is
Jesus.
extraordinarily quiet. I'll have to do the old boosterino, won't I? Unless switch. No, hang on a minute. That is as loud as it fucking goes as well, isn't it? Well, looks. That's Mehdi. Sort your shit out, mate. Right. So you'll have to talk quite quietly for me.
Okay.
Because the volume booster will be on. Okay, let's give this a go.
We talked about how good your record has been on Gaza and how many Palestinians like you. But a lot of Syrians would say your record was as bad on Syria as it has been good on Gaza. Now you oppose a genocide, then you were...
Really? I boosted it. Hang on 1 second.
Maybe it's only coming through in your... Maybe the extension only puts it through like your sound, whereas when it copies it, when the Google Meet copies it from the Google tab, it's copying the sound from the tab, not the sound out of your PC. If you share like the entire screen rather than the individual Chrome window,
The
maybe
problem with that, if
way.
you share the entire screen, it doesn't do audio.
Oh, jeez.
Big fat fucking balls.
Is it on his YouTube channel?
No. Specifically, I had to sign up for this shite. It's only like $4 a month. Fuck it, I don't give a shit.
I mean, that's probably journalism that's worth supporting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because they've got loads of people. They've got Kate Abu and a few other people who I actually really like on this.
Owen Jones's podcast.
Is it? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
Owen Jones, they literally have what they call their podcast together? I forget.
Not
and there's
sure.
there's a thing that they have with Bassem Youssef as well.
Yeah.
Put on subtitles, that might help. If there's subtitles.
There are subtitles. Okay.
Yeah, that'll help.
Indifferent to a genocide.
May I clarify?
Let me finish the question, and you can. You said in November 2015, as Assad and Putin were massacring Syrians in their tens of thousands, quote, the US should be working with Syria, Russia, and Iran to restore all of Syria to control by the government. That's the Assad government.
That was an unapproved statement, which was taken down the moment it was...
You seem to have a lot of things online that you don't approve that go out. We just talked about Instagram. Two pretty big ones.
So
an endorsement of Trump and a support of genocide.
One from 2015 and an Instagram like. Come on, man. Be serious.
Yeah, really.
Be serious.
And this was all of one sentence in a press release that got posted on a website. I never, ever said anything in support of Assad.
You picked a running mate who was a supporter of Assad. The predecessor to Butch was a guy called Ajamu Baraka, who suggested Assad's election victories were legitimate, and then went on a trip to Syria to see Assad, to go with a bunch of pro-Assad actors.
What was that, sorry?
The whole 99% of legitimacy.
Yes, indeed. Well, how much more legitimate do you want him to be? The people clearly love him. Just like that Robert Mugabe. Love it.
That was your running mate. You can understand why Syrian Americans were a little bit upset with you.
Well, that was not a statement on my behalf. I have not been to Syria. I have not said a thing in support of
What's really funny,
Assad.
Right, but you chose a fucking running mate initially, not this guy, the previous one, who did do that. So, like, you do have to answer for that. You chose him. That's on you, Jill.
It was funny. People kept there were people being critical of Assad. Somebody got mad at Owen Jones because he was critical of Assad, and saying, "Well, Palestine supports Assad." And they literally brought up the tweet from this really famous Palestinian journalist. Was it Rahat in Gaza, who got murdered by the IDF? Right, it was terrible. And he tweeted out very specifically that he fucking hated Assad. And I'm just like, maybe that there's like a difference of opinion depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
And of course, you can just make your own like value judgments on Assad, or you can be nuanced in say that whilst Assad may be terrible, like the important thing is stopping people dying in Syria. We hate what he does, but maybe regional stability is an important thing. But there are plenty of pro-Assad people who just legitimately think that he's good for Syria.
Yeah, like you can literally point right across the border and say, is Iraq a better place without Saddam Hussein? And that's not to support Saddam Hussein, who was a piece of shit, but there's no doubt that it was a more stable, less explodey, terroristy place than it has been ever since. Like, it's almost better the devil you know. You can deal with that. Do you know what I mean?
Also,
that's an argument you can make. That is a nuanced argument that you can have.
Yeah, and also the power vacuum that it created in the region too. Was that worth it? Was that worth it for the whole Middle East just getting rid of Saddam Hussein?
Well, Halliburton did make a lot of money.
True.
And we clarified immediately, it was covered by The Hill, that was a mistake. We took it down, we apologized for it, and made clear that we strongly support the sovereignty exactly of this area.
From what your very limited knowledge of him, the Greens nominee in 2020, Howie Hawkins, was pretty okay. I absolutely endorsed Howie Hawkins, not to vote in like swing states or whatever, but in like safe states, I absolutely told people to vote for Howie Hawkins. His interviews, he seemed great, super in on social justice. He recognized the danger of a Trump presidency and was like, well, we think we're better than Joe Biden or we're better than Democrats, right? But Trump is the real enemy and he should be defeated. And it's unfortunate that we have to split the vote here.
I can't help but feel you've missed a trick, though, because if we're talking about Syria and kind of third-party American political leaders, Gary Johnson, Libertarian Party candidate, didn't know what Aleppo was. Bang. Make him fucking president already. Don't even hold a vote. Just put him in there and see what kind of crazy shit will go on. The memes will be off the charts.
The best part about Gary Johnson is he was the only sane candidate of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah. Did you, I've played it before, but when he got elected, the actual conference, they asked the questions, and one of them was, should you need a driver's license? Right? So should this fucking death machine the car weighs like 10 fucking tons, should you need a license and expertise to be able to operate this thing in public? And they were all like, no. One of them said, what next? I'll need a government license to operate my own toaster?
Did one of them say, like, when by sometime we'll have jetpack soon, so we need to drive?
Yeah, mental shit. And Gary Johnson then looked saying, we're just going, yeah, maybe you should have some competency.
And he got booed!
He got fucking booed! Again, the Libertarians are amazing. Amazing. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, the crazy motherfuckers on Twitter, they got a visit from the FBI. Just because they basically called for people to murder the sitting president and vice president. Crazy.
Oh, so it sounds very Muskian.
It is. Elonian in its candour.
Syrian people to determine their future.
Do you have any qualms as a Muslim American about running alongside someone who a lot of Muslim Americans, especially Syrian Americans, have publicly criticized for the stance on Assad?
Absolutely not. The first set of phone calls that I made when this offer was extended to me was in the Palestinian community, the Arab American community. I taught at the University of Michigan.
The Syrian American?
But I love the fact that he's a Muslim and he's called the most white-sounding name ever, Butch Ware. He sounds like a fucking stock car driver. He sounds like an extra character from fucking Talladega Nights.
Yes, absolutely. And the questions were posed to me. And I asked Jill pointedly about this and was given exactly this answer. When I actually showed them the documentation, all of the people that had questions, their fears were assuaged. So I went in with an absolutely clear conscience on this question. I 100% believe in Jill's position with respect to not just Palestinian Americans, but with respect to Muslims' right to self-determination. And I believe in those things because when I asked her in an Instagram Live about what the overall overall foreign policy vision of Jill Stein was. It was actually about dismantling these imperial apparatuses that have tormented Muslims for so long. The Iraq War, Afghanistan War. And just so you know, we will be going, I won't mention what particular day, but we will be on 9/11. We will be in Michigan.
I won't mention what day. On 9/11. That is kind of a day, actually. Literally, it's in the name and everything.
To do a 9/11 memorial march, and we will talk about the dreadful consequences of this tragic day, and we will have
Look, why are you memorialising it? We all know that it was clearly Hassan Piker that did 9/11, and that's fine. In Minecraft.
Moment of silence for all of those lost souls, and then we will have a moment of silence for the hundreds of thousands of people who had their lives taken unjustly in the imperialist extractive wars that were fought in those names.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because you have been very eloquent and bold. We began the interview with me saying you have the strongest position on Gaza by a mile.
Yes.
But it's easy to condemn what America is doing. The critics are saying it's what Russia or Syria does that you haven't condemned, and they point out, as you know, that you went to Russia in December 2015. You sat at a table briefly with Vladimir Putin at the height of the Syria war.
I did what JFK said.
In the wake of his illegal annexation of Crimea, you didn't harshly criticize Putin, they say. In fact, you put out a video of you in Moscow, in Red Square, harshly criticizing not Putin, but American foreign policy in Russia. You didn't criticize Russia.
No, and she was in Red Square, so she was within earshot of Lenin's tomb. And yet she was not in a gay bar listening to YMCA being pumped out through the microphone. What is the point of going to Red Square if you're not going to do that? Galloway had it right all along. Honestly, that's the best sentence that any human being has ever said.
Actually, I
did. You criticised America. Not in that video, 2.5-minute video you put out from Red Square. You said, America, I've got it here, I've got the transcript. You said you called out US exceptionalism. You said we need to respect and replace a US policy of domination, all of which I agree with, by the way. But in Moscow, shouldn't you say something about the Russian imperialists?
And in fact, I did. And had the speech not been taken down, it lived on the internet, on the RT channel. My remarks. See, that
called out
statement,
the Russian
Let her finish.
Yes, I actually did call that out. And
go ahead.
yes, it is a Clinton hit job. And that video was a posting on social media. The actual purpose of that visit was to address a conference of media from around the world.
Well, it was a Russia Today conference, which is a propaganda channel for Putin. I mean, it was some neutral
yes, in
conference.
the same way that the BBC is a propaganda channel.
No, not in the same way. No. That's not a fair comparison, and you fucking know it. Right. Russia Today, it literally does like Putin gob jobs. The BBC is a bit biased and shite. They are not the same fucking thing. You get proper journalism from the BBC. Occasionally. You never ever get that shit from RT. Don't start with that. It's this kind of like both sidesy bullshit that is really annoying, because you're not anti-imperialist, you've just chosen the other empire.
That's the sad part. Actually, it's 25 years ago, whatever. RT actually did used to have the same kind of mission statement as the BBC, and ever since kind of Putin has kind of wrapped his grip around power, it's just more and more just become a propaganda outlet year after year. It's really sad, actually, that they could have properly had some kind of internal structure of transparency and accountability within what had previously been an incredibly kind of corrupt country, and they've just made it even more corrupt as time's gone on.
Yes.
Well, the MSNBC is a propaganda channel.
It's not the same way.
We all
MSNBC is a propaganda
NPR,
channel for Team Blue.
We have our yes, but aren't the American people entitled to decide? What propaganda they're going to listen to?
I'm not saying you should be banned from there. I'm just wondering why you went.
When our corporate media will not cover us, yes, then we do have to embrace whatever media we can get.
And you didn't feel you should criticize Putin
Actually,
while he was
I
there?
did.
To his face?
She did criticize
Yes,
Putin.
What did you say to him?
So he was not at that conference, but he heard it.
He was sitting 3 feet away.
That was not the conference.
I know,
that was a dinner afterwards.
So why not say something?
There were no translators. There was no introduction.
Vladimir Putin speaks English.
He was there for 5 minutes before he gave a speech in Russian. Yeah.
If Joe Biden was sitting at a table with you 5 minutes, you wouldn't call him out on Gaza? If Benjamin Netanyahu was sitting at a table with you, you wouldn't call him out?
But
so why not Putin?
if he is unavailable, if he's across the table and there's just screaming noise.
Across the table? Oh, that's pathetic. I couldn't possibly have made contact with him. He was barely within arm's reach. Like, stop. Stop now. Like, you can just say, oh, I bottled it. I shat myself. Because I'm not even really like a proper politician. And all of a sudden this guy's got nukes and stuff. Yeah, my arse dropped a bit. Sorry. Like, you know, which is probably true. That probably is what happened, you know? Well, it's not what you want to hear from a presidential candidate, but let's be honest, she's not a serious presidential candidate, so it doesn't matter.
Going to go shout over
You're
the
telling me if you sat at a table with Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu for 5 minutes, you wouldn't say anything to them?
Well, this is why I
Sitting
made
next
the
to his
point
main
to
spokesman.
focus my speech on these remarks
right.
and to criticize Russia for basically
not to-
following in the U.S.
So here's what
by
bothers a
bombing
lot.
Syria.
Here's what. Let me finish this conversation.
if I can
Hold on,
understand,
I need to talk about Russia, and I'll bring you in because you weren't there. With respect, Jill was.
That's fair.
On the day you posted that video, on the 17th of December 2015, Russian warplanes bombed a residential area in Aleppo, killed 8 people.
What's Aleppo? Oh, you bastard. I knew he was going to do that eventually. Oh,
It was like 42 minutes in, I think, was it?
was it? I don't fucking know. I probably could just go back or something, but...
I knew.
there were no
watching
translators,
things
there was
that
no-
are paywalls on stream.
Yeah, well, fuck them. I don't care. I've paid for it. Bollocks to you.
Yeah, so like, what's the difference in the bringing your
5
mates
minutes, you
round
wouldn't
to
call him
watch
out
it,
on
right?
Gaza? If
No,
Benjamin Netanyahu was sitting at a table with you, you wouldn't call him out?
But if,
so why
if
not
he is
Putin?
if he is unavailable, if he's across the table and there's just screaming noise, what you're gonna go shout over
You're
the
telling me if you sat at a table with Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu for 5 minutes, you wouldn't say anything
Well,
to them?
this is why I
Sitting
made the
next to his
point
main
to
spokesman.
focus my speech on these remarks
right.
and to criticize Russia for basically
not to-
following in
You
the
put-
U.S.
So here's what
by
bothers a
bombing
lot.
Syria.
Here's what. Let me finish this conversation.
if I can
Hold on, I
understand,
need to talk
though.
about Russia, and I'll bring you in because you weren't there. With respect, Jill was.
That's fair.
On the day you posted that video, on the 17th of December 2015, Russian warplanes bombed a residential area in Aleppo, killed 8 people.
What's Aleppo? Fuck off. Ugh.
Including 4 kids. 10 days after you went to that dinner in Russia, on 20th of December, Russian warplanes bombed a marketplace in Idlib, killed over 40 Syrian people in the area. Did you ever condemn any of that?
Yes,
Did you feel
absolutely.
bad about being
Yes.
in Russia, talking about peace while they're dropping bombs?
Well, that was the point of that was one of
It
the
didn't work,
points
did it?
in my actual remarks. Well, whose has worked? Yes, but you know, I was also on that in that same trip. I was in Paris talking with Jeremy Corbyn. I was talking with the Chinese deputy negotiator on climate.
Oh, so she was talking to Hitler.
Am I
was
going to
she?
change the
Oh,
world?
well, that's not looking good, is it?
True, she was speaking to the Czechoslovak diplomat Jeremy Corbyn. and various other people.
By having a 1-minute conversation with world leaders? No, and more often than not, you can't even get their attention. But what I was able to do was to put on record 3 issues, 3 top issues. One was a global Green New Deal. A second was a peace offensive in the Middle East and actually withholding weapons from this madness and this perpetual war in the Middle East.
I know what she means, but the phrase peace offensive couldn't be more American. We need a peace slaughter. Yes! We need bombs of peace. America! Fuck yeah!
We looked at your social media, and you haven't done that many posts specifically calling out Russian attacks on civilian areas. You haven't called Vladimir Putin a war criminal, but you have called Benjamin Netanyahu a
No,
war
actually
criminal.
we did.
Yeah.
In my very first remarks
This
about
is-
the Ukraine war,
Like, I
we
like
condemned.
Mehdi, but this is a bit, do you condone the hummus?
It is very much do you condone Hamas, isn't it?
It's a bit like I think she is a bit of a Putin shill. I'll just say
Oh, I
it
agree,
straight
yeah.
up. But doing you didn't say it enough for my liking is just like you're sounding a bit Piers Morgan, and that is
Yeah,
not nice.
she does like the reverse American exceptionalism when
Yeah, exactly,
when literally only America can ever do bad things and only American allies are worth criticizing. And there's a reason why, of course, like Jeremy Corbyn was the one very specifically calling out Vladimir Putin in Chechnya, whilst our government was busy giving him giving him diplomatic cover, especially after under Tony Blair in 1999, MI6 actually admitted that they helped get Putin elected because they didn't want the KPRF to win the election. And Corbyn was right there calling that shit out at the time because, of course, you'll call that shit out whenever it's relevant to do so, rather than just when he thinks that the bad team are doing it.
Exactly, because Jeremy Corbyn is an actual anti-imperialist. Jill Stein has just chosen the opposite empire. Just whoever is against America, that's the one she's going to go with, regardless. Yeah. That's not anti-imperialism. Exactly. That's just anti-Americanism, which is bollocks.
Yeah. There's a lot of these people on the US left. Bad Empanada has a really good video critiquing the West, like American critiques that are just America bad. It's a really good video about the grey zone as well, worth watching.
Vladimir Putin's a war criminal.
Yes, we did.
And Bashar al-Assad's a war criminal.
Yes, in so many words. Yes, we have said as much.
Ooh, in so many words.
I mean, I actually think
you don't need to add that qualifier, really.
I mean, you don't have to. It's like what's with the notch bit when he said, "Just say the Nazis are bad. Nazis and communists.
Nazis and communists are bad." Yeah, exactly. Like she didn't care. Obviously, I didn't play it because it's like an hour long. But during the bit about Israel, she didn't say Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal in so many words. She just said he's a war criminal.
Yeah, it's not because I think she is saying that he is a war criminal here. Like
in so many words. Yeah.
Don't help yourself. You don't help yourself if you do believe that by adding, like, if you want to remove all doubt, just say it with your whole chest.
Yeah, look, she's a politician. She knows what she's doing here. I don't think he can't be that bad at this, surely.
So Chris Fisher in chat says, "Is there an argument for America good? If please so direct you." When have I ever said that America was good? There isn't an argument, but America bad does not mean that everybody who is opposed to America is good.
Yeah, exactly,
everybody is problematic. I win the discourse.
Well, apart from me and you, who are perfect, which is why you should give us bits and subs and super chats and memberships on YouTube for as little as 99 pence. And we will not spend it on any weaponry.
John DeBrayson, I thought Bad Empanada was an America bad person. I'm sure he's done some morally reprehensible things. I mean, you just have to look at his Twitter feeds to know that man has had some takes in the past, right?
He's
but
trash. He's fucking trash.
His video essay content he's put out, I think his back catalogue is good. Actually, in his reaction stream, he did a really good video reacting to a debate between like Roger Waters and like a CNN journalist, and it's just two sides of the "my side is good, everybody else is bad" argument.
Roger Waters,
and it's just yeah.
No, yeah, Roger Waters is genuinely unwell, I think.
It's a shame because I think his heart probably is at least in the right place. And
it is, but like I love how deluded these old rock stars get. When the war in Ukraine thing kicked off a couple of years back now, that whole special military operation. How's that 3-day operation going, Vlad? Is it going well? Anyway, Roger Waters wrote to both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, wrote to them a fucking letter, right, saying that he would be happy to negotiate between the two of them for a peaceful resolution. Motherfucker, you were famous 40 years ago. As a rock star, you weren't even a diplomat 40 years ago. No, why the fuck would they listen to you? Why are you writing them a letter, you prat? Like they're gonna give a shit. Oh my god!
Like, how's that any different to that? Vladimir Putin, I wish I was your mother.
It really is. It would have been less cringe if he just sung "Imagine" at them. Yeah.
So
you call Netanyahu one, which I think he is.
And it's so funny that Gail Gadot was the person that did the fucking Imagine thing, given her, Zionist leaning, shall we say. Imagine no religion. It's easy if you try. Prick.
Criminal.
So what we said about Putin was that his invasion of Ukraine is criminal. It's a criminal and murderous war.
And he's a war criminal who should be on trial.
Well, by implication.
You're struggling here to say something very simple. This is why people have their doubts about
Please condemn Hamas.
Why is Benjamin Netanyahu war?
You're not condemning the hummus nearly strongly enough now. Come on.
Criminal, but not Vladimir Putin.
Well, as John F. Kennedy said, we must not be afraid to. We must not negotiate out of fear.
As John F. Kennedy said, "Ah, my head! Ah, I've been shot! Ah!" Too soon? Too soon?
Just,
Yeah.
It's just super easy. It's just super easy to just say yeah. Just say yes.
Yeah, no, he's a war criminal, yeah. End of.
Because I mean, she basically has just said it. She said, well, by implication, and well, yes, he is. By like she's already just basically admitted it. Like, how difficult is it to just not to dodge all of the potential poor press afterwards by just saying yeah when you've already basically said it?
Who is this hemming and hawing? Actually, like, who's impressed by this? Like, who gives a shit? Like, people who like Putin will still have heard you say, yeah, he's a criminal, and people who think he's an arsehole have heard you go, well, in so many ways, maybe, you know, kind of, yeah, he's a bit of a war criminal. Look, do you know what I mean? It doesn't. You really do have to come down to basically on one side of this, which sounds bad. Like, you should have a nuanced take if there's nuance to be had, but in this one, there sort of isn't really.
Yeah, exactly. Like, ICC have made it clear. There's been a request for an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, but there has already been an arrest warrant been sent out by the ICC for Vladimir Putin. So if your kind of your watermark, your landmark for deciding whether somebody is a war criminal is, you know, are the ICC after them? And if you think that's true with Netanyahu, then you clearly have to make it the case with Vladimir Putin as well. And for many of the same reasons, like imperialist annexation, occupation, criminally attacking reserved buildings, massacring of civilians, like it's the same thing you get from Netanyahu and Putin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Honestly, the number of people who will condemn one but not the other is a remarkably large number, unfortunately.
And there's a large amount of it is based on the same ideology of like blood and soil ethno-nationalism.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just the same kind of the greater Russia, chauvinist imperialist expansion that Lenin criticized the Russian Empire for.
It's interesting you say that because, of course, the party you just mentioned, the Reformed Communist Party of the Russian Federation, is now basically a sort of ethno-nationalist, sort of pseudo-socialist economically party. It's embarrassing. It's just become basically Putin's party, but a bit less anti-gay, slightly.
Fear, and we must not fear to negotiate. So if you want to be an effective world leader, you don't start by name-calling and hurling epithets.
So how will President Stein negotiate with Israel then if you've called Netanyahu a war criminal?
Well, because he very clearly is a war
so Putin
criminal.
Clearly isn't a war criminal.
Well, we don't have a decision, put it this way, by the International Criminal Court.
Yes, we do.
Yes, actually. For God's sake, Jill, what are you doing? You don't need a fucking decision for you to make a pretty bold... Well, not even a bold statement. It's just the obvious statement of fact. We've all seen what the fuck has been going on there. Those Russian shells weren't accidentally falling in residential areas.
They didn't deliberately bomb a school which had the sign "children" outside it by accident.
Yeah, like this is a repeated pattern of behaviour.
Yeah, the bodies in Bucha and Kramatorsk didn't just like magic themselves out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can just say, yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal because I can see him doing war crimes. Vladimir Putin is a war criminal because I can see him doing war crimes. With my own eyes.
For his arrest?
Actually, you're wrong. There's an arrest warrant for Putin. There isn't yet an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. So why is Putin not a war criminal but Netanyahu is?
Yeah.
I think they both are. You don't.
Let me say this. We are sponsoring that war. We are sponsoring Netanyahu.
That's our war.
He is our dog in this fight. That is why we have a responsibility.
No disagreement
to
from
pull
me at
him
all.
back.
But that
with
does
Russia,
not answer my question.
With Russia, it's
whether
far
we
more
sponsor them or not
complicated.
is irrelevant. Either you're a war criminal or you're not. Is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
In so many words, yes, he is.
I don't know what so many words are. Butch, is Vladimir Putin a war criminal?
Let me say that whatever you think he is.
Look, again, I fully agree with Mehdi.
She doesn't need to couch it. It's so ridiculous that she's doing that. Why? Look, it so obviously plays into the thing that people fear about you, is that you're a fucking Russian puppet. So don't do that. Look, regardless of whether you are or aren't, let's say on one hand maybe she's taken a gazillion rubles and she's a fucking fully paid up FSB agent, and on the other hand she's absolutely like completely squeaky clean. Either way, why would you couch it this way? Because it makes you look terrible either way.
To both sides. Both
Yeah.
sides now hate you. People who want you to be pro-Russia would be saying, well, no, it's very, very clear that this was a special military operation to denazify Russia. We need to be able to use the Russian military, not just occupy the Donbass, but to expel everybody from the 67th Mechanized Division and the Azov Battalion out of Ukraine, because clearly Volodymyr Zelensky is corrupt and cannot be trusted. This is a just war to free the Donbass people who definitely 100% want to secede, but they were not given so by the corrupt government in Ukraine, right? If you genuinely believe that and that's your position, they're now going to hate you because you've said in so many words Putin is a war criminal. I mean, everybody else who look at it and say, well, this is an imperialist war to gain territory because you believe that it should be Russian territory because of a failure of the breakup of the Soviet Union and imperialist ambitions to be like the imperial Russia of yesterday, combined with the desire to be able to gain all of the resources that you have access to in the Donbass, which is resource rich, plus you agitate against the strength of forces that you disagree with within like Western Europe because Ukraine wanted to join the European Union of economic ties for this economic reason, then you would think that poor Putin's a war criminal because he's committed war crimes. Like, now all you've done is alienate literally everybody.
Is if you want to pull him back.
I think I'm asking what you
well,
think. You're running for president.
If you are a world leader, you don't begin your conversation by calling someone a war criminal unless
so why
you
have you called Biden and Netanyahu war criminals?
Because we have a clear strategy and we have a very strong support across
Is
the
Bashar
world
al-Assad and Vladimir
community.
Putin war criminals in your view?
In my humble opinion, as an individual, I would class their actions as criminal without any question. What I would say also in response to affirm my sister soldier, Dr. Jill Stein's point, is that we have a different...
Sister soldier. Come now.
I mean, go ahead. It's phraseology. I'm going to criticize it.
I come on now. Just it's a bit far, Hoffe. That's all I'm saying.
Relationship of responsibility, okay? The differential relationship of responsibility is as follows. This is our genocide in Gaza. Israel is our landed aircraft carrier. We provide 70% of the arms and munitions. Everyone wants to pin this on Netanyahu and the right wing in the Zionist entity, but in point of fact, this is an American genocide. And therefore, we have a different kind of responsibility to call out people that are in our own house. We clean our own house first. And if we are running for leaders of the free world, as you say, without the qualifications, then there is no point in pissing in Vladimir Putin's cereal.
Okay.
And can I add that we have ginned up that war in Ukraine. We had everything to do with the coup in 2014.
There we go.
So my question.
Jesus Christ, she's off. There we go.
And it's,
now we get the RT talking points. Yeah, okay.
Because what's sad is that the actual thing, it's interesting that the vice presidential candidate gave a much better answer than Jill Stein did. He started off by saying, it's clear that his actions are criminal. It's clear his actions are criminal. Immediately get that out of the way and then say, but that doesn't have really got any bearing on how we deal with the things that we have action over, which is trying to stop what we're doing in terms of how we give all of the weapons and munitions to be able to do what's happening in Gaza. That was the perfect answer that you could have given fucking 10 minutes ago in this interview. Very clear that's 100% true. Right? There's no financial relationship that's helping America to be able to give Putin arms to do this, but we can change our relationship with Netanyahu just to cut this shit out right now. That's a very salient point, but we've just had to do 10 minutes of prevarication over a very clear and simple fact that Putin is a war criminal. Yes.
Yeah.
That doesn't excuse Putin.
In Israel, it's pretty clear cut
that's not how war
that
crimes
there is
work.
a murderous,
with respect, Jill Stein, that's not how war crimes
genocide
work.
going on.
War crimes are war
which
crimes
to me,
regardless of who commits them.
Well,
but
if
that's
we
my
were to
position
call
on
out
international
every
law.
war criminal, we would also have to be calling out Barack Obama.
Yep,
we
and
have
we
to
can.
call out Dick Cheney.
We can.
I mean, there's just a whole...
I have.
And George Bush.
All three of us have, but it seems to me I'm the only one who's willing to call out Putin at this table.
Wait, hold on. You didn't hear me? I answered the question.
You said the crimes. You didn't say him.
No, I said that they were both criminal. I said
okay, good.
And I have called him a criminal as well.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so move on from there. Hard work getting to this. I understand the point you're making, although I don't agree
moves
with
us forward in solving the war in Ukraine. We need to sit down and we need to...
Yes,
would have been so simple. Would have been so simple and easy to have just said that right at the start.
Yeah, just said yes, yeah. You just wasted all of this time on condemning hummus.
negotiate without name calling.
I agree on
and,
that.
and I take
Let's
that very
talk-
seriously. And
Before
I think
we
it's
run out of time,
important
let's talk
not to
domestic.
disrupt our chance at peace here by name calling.
Let's talk domestic policy. Butch Ware, Gaza aside, what would you say is the policy issue you believe your platform
that's the
is
bit we wanted to
best
watch.
Yeah,
on?
that's basically that's the bit we wanted to watch.
Yeah, that's the bit that's public online as well. So.
Well, not all of it. Anyway, but I
But I
may
mean,
have
you
broken
know what I
his,
mean.
his I don't know, terms of service. Mehdi, don't sue me, mate. I've just given you $4 Leave me alone. I'm not even going to make $4 from this. So, like, just chill, bro. I don't think.
Yeah, but I think what is it? But it is good that the immediate response from Mehdi Hasan was just like, yeah, absolutely, we'll call out Obama. I have called out Obama.
Yeah.
You know, again, clearly the position that you take is you do what I said earlier. Everybody is problematic. I win the discourse.
Exactly. Quite so. So I'm going to be on what do you call it tomorrow?
Hippy Dippy?
No, not Hippy Dippy. The Normal Island.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I was arranging that whilst I was on air because I can multitask. I am a Renaissance man. I really am. Yeah, so everyone can join me for that. I've forgotten what time it happens at. Like 7 o'clock or some shit.
7:30 usually.
7:30. There you go. And we'll be talking about exploding pages. So that'll be fun. Yeah. Yeah. What you got coming up? Well, I'm assuming you're done. You might even carry on. I don't fucking know what you're up to.
Oh no, I mean I'm done for this evening.
Yeah,
I'll be back tomorrow sometime. If you're on Normal Island, maybe I'll stream afterwards. I would stream the day tomorrow to catch PMQs, but I think I'm playing tennis again tomorrow because it's the last day of nice weather of the year probably tomorrow.
You're
so.
playing tennis, you middle class bastard.
I mean, but I'm not paying to play tennis. They're literally like free, like asphalt courts outside a school over in Bramca. Me and my mate go down and play. So.
Oh, nice. Oh, we don't get shit like that. We got
yeah,
nothing.
cheap Sports Direct racket, £15. There you go.
Love it. Actually, you know what? I appreciate that. Being middle class on a budget, Keir Starmer could learn things from you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? I didn't need a millionaire donor. I didn't need Lord Ali to buy me my tennis racket. I pay for my tennis racket myself.
True, but if any millionaire donors do want to give me tennis rackets, actually no, money would be better. To be fair. Yeah.
Yeah, this stream isn't sponsored by Big Tennis Racket, but if you're listening, Big Tennis Racket, it certainly could be.
I'm firmly in the pocket of Big Tennis Racket, the Tennis Racket Industrial Complex. Own me, lock, stock, and barrel. Or should I say, game, set, and match? I suppose. Yes. Who should we go over to?
So on YouTube, I'm going to raid into Alec Gunter because. The only other person live is President Sunday, and I feel like I spend my entire life raiding into President Sunday, so I'm going to switch up. Twitcherino, though, I mean, there's Francesca Fiorentini, we've got the Surfs.
Whatever. We go Surfy Surfs, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's extra clout to do it. Well, maybe the Surfs still live on Twitch as well. We could do it on YouTube, so I could raid into the Surfs on both.
I imagine they must be. Yeah.
On both YouTube and Twitch. I wonder if they do actually stream live on both.
I have no idea.
The Surf Times, yeah, they're live on YouTube as well. We can quadruple raid the Surfs.
Fuck yes. Oh, okay,
Let's
everyone.
go.
I'll be back tomorrow and that, and yeah, I'll be doing Normal Island and then probably PMQs afterwards, maybe.
Oh, there's no PMQs till October, actually, apparently, because of conference season. Is Question Time back this Thursday, or is it next Thursday?
I think it's this Thursday. I could be wrong.
Well, okay, what if we're going to do our separate things tomorrow, then we can come back together for some Thursday Question Time, if it's there.
And if
Absolutely.
not, whatever.
Well,
Yeah. Okay.
Take care, stay safe, free Palestine. See you later.
True. Bye-bye.
Bye.